GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to goodrx.com/GLP. That's goodrx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
There's nothing like when you get that part from eBay and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Our resort weather in late August continues. Almost have to check the calendar. Partly sunny skies, 79, 80. Should do it for the high this afternoon. That is below average. Tonight, a few clouds around 60. On Thursday, partly sunny, maybe a spot shower, but really tough to find. 81, Friday, sunny and 82. Let's keep that pattern going right through Labor Day. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
I mean, the number of days that I've come on the air in the aftermath of a school shooting is just way too often. And, you know, I started seeing this kind of clear at around 8:45 this morning on Twitter, and then it didn't take too long. I think the shooting in Minneapolis was around 8:30, and Fox and all the networks were on it very shortly after that. Now we have, you know, more information and disturbing information about the shooter, who appeared to be trans. At one point was named Robert, changed his name to Robin, although I think everyone is saying him, Fred, in the coverage at this point. We have audio of the kid as well. Maybe one good thing here is that he's dead, you know, so we don't have to worry about that anymore, which is, I think, somewhat comforting. But Sue, here we go again, this time at a church. These kids were in mass when this happened. And, you know, usually, and I heard some of the experts talking about this, typically these do exist, the school shootings in public schools, not private schools. Now, there is a bit of a trend here with some of these kids, including what happened in Nashville, being trans, and that's part of the equation. But I'm going to play you a couple of different things here before we get going. Brian Kilmeade's going to join us at around 3:18 with his take on this story and a bunch of others. But there's a couple of things that this kid left behind. One is a manifesto, and it's very detailed, and there's things that he wrote about everything from, you know, politics to his family, and he closes out with a PS that says, T, who I think is a sibling, get over yourself, make up with mom. So there's different things like that. This is from a video that he posted when there was a video of a bunch of weapons and ammo that are sitting on a bed, it looks like, and on nearly every piece of ammo, or not on every bullet, but on the what would you call that? The cartridges. Sorry, some of this is not coming on the cartridges. You can see, you know, different words. And one thing I noticed, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Fred, one of the words on there was Rupnow, Rupnow. That was an apparent reference to Natalie Rupnow, the teenager who shot and killed two people and then herself at the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin last December. So there's all these little things that sort of pop up that may or may not have significance. I mean, on that particular weapon, it says Rupnow, and then it says follow me, ! It says pedos or pedos. I don't know if that's short for pedophiles. There is what looks like to be a broken heart written on part of the gun's handle. It's just bizarre. And then you have this video that was posted and uploaded to YouTube, which has been now taken down, but people grabbed it. Yeah, this is real.
Here's my note to my family. Wow, some English writing. Wow.
It's creepy. It is beyond creepy. Now, do you think I should take this guy live right now? Let's see. This is the Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara. We have some audio from him. But let's see what he's saying right now. He's doing a Q&A.
I'm just wondering if you have a suggestion for where we start to make sure it doesn't ever happen.
A little hard to hear the questions here.
Yeah, so the question was, where do we start to make sure this doesn't happen again? I don't have an answer for that at this time.
You understand from the federals that there is an idea that this might be investigated, maybe it already is, I'm not sure my information, as a hate crime against Catholics. I'm asking you, perhaps, Archbishop, is this a line of investigation that you have open to comment on that?
So the question is this an investigation into a hate crime against Catholics? We don't have a motive at this time. Obviously, we're open to any possibilities at all, but we don't have a motive or anything to suggest that.
Do you know if there's any more safety, any more protective measures that are implemented at other Catholic schools throughout the Twin Cities or churches? I'm sure there are masses going around right now this afternoon.
Yeah.
It's just a week out from, or a few days before the start of school.
Yeah. So the question is the concern for other churches, other schools around the metro. Unfortunately, this is something that our community has been dealing with for some time. The threat of active shooters, the threat of hate crimes at houses of worship, unfortunately, is not something new here. And of course, our precinct inspectors, our crime prevention specialists are available to work with both houses of worship, churches, and schools that do reach out to assist in any additional security measures or advice that we can offer them.
About that to follow up. Are you aware that this is the first time that actually a Catholic mass has been targeted and there have been victims inside a Catholic church?
I'm going to cut out of this right now because he started talking maybe about 15 or 20 minutes ago. And Fred, you snagged the very beginning of the statement. So let's kind of rewind back to that, where he answers some of the questions and kind of explains what happened earlier today. And by the way, there were 2 people who were killed in this, which is miraculous. I can't believe only 2 people were killed, 14 injured. The police chief does say that the people that are at the hospital are expected to survive, which is good news. He actually may say that here.
To this truly unthinkable tragedy that happened here earlier today, I want to make sure that we are providing the most accurate information possible, particularly as we speak around our victims. At this point, we know we have a total of 19 victims from this tragedy. 2 were young children, ages 8 and 10, that were sitting in the pews at Mass when they were shot and killed. They were pronounced deceased on the scene. There were another 14 children between the ages of 6 and 15 that were injured by gunfire. There were also 3 adults in their 80s that were parishioners here attending Mass that were also shot in this incident. The families of all of the children that have been affected have been notified. The coward that shot these victims took his own life in the rear of the church. That coward has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman, no prior criminal history. As to the weapons used to perpetrate this horrific attack, there was a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. All 3 had been lawfully purchased by the shooter. At this stage, we believe that the shooter had acted alone. There is no indication of other suspects directly involved in carrying out this attack. Our investigators are working with other agencies in the process of executing 4 search warrants. 1 is for the church itself, where this crime occurred. The other 3 are residences nearby in the metro that are related to this shooter.
All right, so that's some of the basics of what happened. Let me play you some of the audio that we have from the witnesses, by the way. And he said 3 guns were used in the video that he posted. There were more than 3 weapons that were on that. There were several semi-automatic weapons. There was a 9mm that I heard him say something about a 9mm. I didn't see the 9mm. I saw what appeared to be maybe a .357 Magnum revolver that he said he might need for himself. That might have been the gun that he used, to kill himself. On some of the markings on the gun and ammo, I wrote some notes down. One said, "Suck on this." There was another note that said, "Where's your God?" One said, "For the children." One said, "Kick a spick." One said, "Fart N-word." One said killer sadist. There was some reference to Israel with a Jewish star. So, and at one point in the audio, he says, "I'm sorry to my family, but F those kids." Like the whole thing is just bizarre. And speaking of kids, I have a 5th grader, a 10-year-old little girl who's in school right now. This is a 10-year-old little boy who's a 5th grader at this school.
My friend ran, someone helped him run out. He saw him. He was wearing all black and he had a ski mask on. I was down, so I didn't really look up. I mean, he shot through the stained glass windows, so they're probably ruined. And then my friend Victor, he was laying on top of me, making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
It's just kind of looks like debris. 10-year-old kid telling that story. Here's another witness that said that he saw someone running from the scene and then actually picked him up, one of the victims.
There was 2 cars in front of us that just stopped in front of the school. So we were the 3rd car behind. And I saw a man running up the street the other way, and he was frantically running, like he was running for his life. And so that kind of alerted me that something was wrong. We heard probably about 15 to 20 gunshots in about 30 seconds. So we just booked it. We took a left. We jumped on Harriet. We drove by and we said, "Are you okay? Do you want to come in the car with us?" And he said, yes, please. He's like, "Someone's shooting at me. Someone's shooting at me." We get in the car and we just ask him what's going on. He said that a man dressed in all black was firing shots, and he didn't see anything else besides what he was wearing, but he hit the ground. His hands were all beat up from hitting the ground so hard. Then he got up and he said, "I have to start running. I have to go."
In these situations, I really don't like to give a lot of attention to the shooter and, mention the name of the shooter. But when it comes to the manifesto, you're starting to get some information about why maybe this happened. And I think the primary reason is this person was thoroughly and completely and way, way over the line mentally ill. I mean, completely sick. And writes in the manifesto, "I have wanted this for so long. I'm not well. I'm not right. I'm a sad person haunted by these thoughts that do not go away. I know this is wrong, but I can't seem to stop myself. I'm severely depressed. I have been suicidal for years. Only recently have I lost all hope and, decided to perform my final action against this world. I don't want to kneel down for the injustices of this world. I want to die. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees constantly in pain." Well, you could have taken care of that yourself without killing kids. Right, exactly. That's the thing that always is completely bizarre in this situation. So we're all over it. We're going to cover that. If there's any more live news conferences or information, we'll certainly get to that. We have Brian Kilmeade coming up next as we get rolling here on a Wednesday afternoon edition of the Mark Reardon Show.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Couple of accidents to mention. There is one northbound Lindbergh or northbound 67 past Forder Road. Watch for that one in the 2 right lanes. And an accident westbound 70 past 79. That one in the left lane. And we've got some ongoing road work happening eastbound 70 past Hanley. That's been causing a delay as well. And southbound 270, just moderate volume now from Page down through 64. It's a little slow at Gravois. Things look fine on the bridges downtown and the Illinois side. For over 25 years, Lakeside Renovation and Design has been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. Windows, siding, kitchens, baths, outdoor spaces, and they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
So, Sue, as we were wrapping up the show yesterday in the last 20 minutes, this story about Cracker Barrel broke where they were going back to the old logo. And yesterday I noticed that Asra Nomani, who's a good friend of the show, had written about some interesting things related to DEI and the board at Cracker Barrel. She is going to join us next on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hi, my name is Christina Straight, the owner of Straight Realty, and I'm asking you, what do you want in a realtor? Do you want experience? I've been a broker for over 21 years. Do you want to know how much I've sold? I've sold over $500 million, yes, $1 billion with a B, in sales. Do you want value? I now list properties for only 2%. So, if you're looking for all these things and want the best, then call me 314-441-4444. Why pay more than $2? You can also listen to my podcast on my website, straightrealty.com.
Commissions are not regulated and negotiable. Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri. Hey, it's Bo Matthews, and Missouri Brush Control is helping landowners reclaim their property with forestry mulching. If invasive plants and trees have overtaken your land, Missouri Brush Control will mulch vegetation where it stands with specialized equipment that is efficient and eco-friendly. Selective land clearing like this can help you maximize your property's value. Enjoy your land like you've always dreamed of. Check out our website or Facebook page for before and after photos and videos of our projects. Learn more at MissouriBrushControl.com. That's MissouriBrushControl.com.
If you suffer from burning, tingling, or numb feet, pay special attention as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Patton, D.C. Doctor, what is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage to the feet and legs.
What are the symptoms?
The symptoms are numbness, burning, tingling, pain, and loss of balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It's absolutely treatable, and we have amazing results.
If you have burning, tingling, numbness, coldness in your feet or hands or balance issues, call us at Comprehensive Integrated Health today for a nerve damage screening. The screening will tell if you're at risk for serious complications and if you're a candidate for our cutting-edge treatment program. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe nothing can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, and even amputations. The first 10 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Call 636-538-5188. That's 636-538-5188 for your free nerve damage screening. 636-538-5188.
From politics to pop culture, Reardon breaks it all down. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Okay, crazy afternoon. I mentioned Asra Nomani. She's coming up after the bottom of the hour. And some of this stuff, Sue, one thing I noticed with the Cracker Barrel thing, and I don't know if you're dialed into this, Steak and Shake got very active. Like the official account of it's interesting, but now there's an explanation for it. I'm going to fill you in, and Asra will tell you that story after the bottom of the hour. Right now, Brian Kilmeade back with us on a Wednesday afternoon. Brian, how are you?
Oh, good, Mark. How are you?
Well, in the open of the show here a few minutes ago, I played some audio that Fox had aired of a 10-year-old little kid who was a witness to this shooting in Minneapolis. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and it's just heartbreaking. Every time I hear about one of these things, Twitter started getting active pretty quickly around 8:45 or 9 with reports out of Minneapolis. Obviously, there's still a lot of questions that we don't know, but here we go again. And this is another, I heard even someone on the network talking about how this is a little rare because most of these shootings do take place at public schools, not a Catholic school or a church like this one. So again, another devastating story. Brian, I think it's a miracle that more people weren't killed. I don't know about you.
Yeah, miracle is a tough word, but this guy's just psycho. I just watched an 11-minute video that he did prior, and he's absolutely twisted, beyond twisted. The ramifications for this go forever. I mean, kids are going to be seeing this, internalizing this. That are that age. They're going to be talking about it if they experienced it, let alone the kids that actually experienced it. So this, to me, is just horrific. And again, Catholic on some of the ammo was kill Trump. Horrible things that they wrote. So it's anti-religious, anti-kids. It is anti-Trump. It is, I guess this kid is trans. I guess he's going to blame society for that. So there's a lot of issues to uncover here, but mostly it's horrific.
Yeah, it just is. And, I think about, obviously, the kids that died and maybe the death toll will rise because of kids being in the hospital. But I can't even imagine, going back to my daughter, having to deal with this and think about this all the time moving forward, the PTSD angle of it. And it's just, I don't know, maybe it shouldn't be worse when it's kids involved, but it certainly seems that way. And I think our reaction is more emotional when there's children involved like this, especially just, going to a mass at a Catholic church. Let's talk about a couple other things that are happening right now. How do you think that this is going in D.C. with the federal takeover with the National Guard? The numbers seem pretty good. Of course, Trump kind of dabbling with sending federal law enforcement to Chicago and Baltimore. Brandon Johnson standing defiantly, even though his city's falling apart. What do you make of this moving forward, Brian?
Well, it's a lot closer to you. You know that Chicago's a mess. I mean, for him to sit there and say everything's going down, all the numbers are going down. It's getting safer every day. It's just not true. Murders are down, but shootings are terrible. And vehicle homicides, vehicle theft is up 80%. I mean, assaults are down slightly, but the numbers are way too high. It's still number one in all the wrong categories. So for them to sit there as if they're doing a victory dance, as if the war is over, is insane. But the good news is these people don't represent the people the small section of people that elected them. Do you think people in Chicago go, okay, honey, there really is no danger. I just watched our mayor speak on TV for Donald Trump not to come?
Yeah.
I mean, do you know that they know the answer to all this stuff? This is why Trump won. You could sit there and say all this political correctness and birthing people and going back to the dumb language and blaming America as a terrible place, 1619 Project. Okay, I'm not going to go protest. I'm not going to go buy some oak tag and march in front of the city hall. But I got to vote, and I'm not buying this. And if you're going to say it in school, I'm going to leave that school. And America's just had it.
Well, absolutely, they've had it. You know, we saw a lot of evidence of this. I go back to last year, Bill Malugin doing some great reporting along the border with all these immigrants streaming over for the past few years. And then, you know, people in Chicago in particular, this happened in other cities, but I remember playing audio, and I know Fox aired audio from residents of Chicago that were pissed off about the migrants, about the migrant crime, about not being attended to, even though they were taxpayers, and the priorities just being completely out of whack from the mayor of Chicago, which is pretty consistent in that state.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point that you brought up. Remember, they told us for the longest time, it is global migration. That's what happens at the border, and nobody's getting in. I mean, we're handling it. We're screening them, and we're, you know, it's horrible that the governor of Texas is busing them. But besides that, everything's going according to plan. There is no problem. Our border is not open. Our border is not broken. And we look at that and we say, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I had to go drop my kid at soccer practice. Well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Does everybody know this guy's Mayorkas is lying? Yeah. But are we loud by nature? So you have a middle-class family with 3 kids, still doing a million things. Do they have time to become an activist?
No.
But it doesn't mean they don't get it.
Right. Yeah. They're just trying to raise their families like everyone else. All right. I would be in the, I guess I would call it the Jonathan Turley camp on this flag burning issue. I've always defended, despite it being reprehensible and despicable, the First Amendment right for people to burn flags in protest. However, I do think that the executive order is a little nuanced because it focuses somewhat on, you know, incitement of a riot. Now, we have statutes that address that as well. But what are your thoughts on the penalizing of flag burning? There's one thing I do know. I think it'd be very popular to say that, even with Democrats, to penalize flag burning. But there are constitutional issues here.
There is. And what they told me, what Trey Gowdy said on my radio show yesterday is, Justice Scalia came up and said, I hate it, but if I really like the First Amendment, that's your First Amendment. You're speaking out. You're allowed to speak out against America, and that's what that is. Trey Gowdy goes, I get him on arson. You can't take something and burn in the middle of a roadway. That's dangerous. So, but in this way, it's a wink and a nod. It's a flag. So I do know this is the sentiment. Trump can't go wrong. But if you look at the legal argument, which very few are equipped to have, obviously, I think that we've been over this. I feel like we were over this 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
And when Justice Scalia, everyone's standard bearer for conservatism, ruled that way, to me, it's game, set, match. But am I mad at Trump for doing that? Absolutely not. However, the 600,000 Chinese students,
600,000, yeah.
I'm extremely mad.
Yeah.
600,000, that's different. I think he's way off on that. I would say 60 tops. So I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, that one confused me as well. Not going to lie. And that one hasn't gotten as much attention this week either. Brian Kilmeade back with us this afternoon. All right, let me just address the issue of access for the president. You interviewed him on your show a couple of weeks ago. He has been on every time I feel like I look at Fox, he's on answering questions. He had cabinet meeting, what was it, number 7, even though Joe Biden didn't even eclipse that number after 4 years in office. So his access to the media this week alone it's just incredible how much communication is going on with this president directly with members of the media, Brian.
I think it's for us. I think that he's looking past the media and looking at us. Not me and you as American citizens. I think that he uses the media, takes a question, he'll go, okay, that's a dumb question. You're just a hater. Or ABC, that's not even a network. Now let me just answer the question. Now let me talk to the people.
Yeah.
So I think that he wants to communicate with us constantly. And there's no notes. It's what he's dealing with every day. And I think a lot of it is he sounds a lot of it out. He's sounding it out now. Let me tell you, this is what we should do. This flag is unconstitutional. You know what? This crime, this is an 80-20 issue. Next thing you know, suddenly Johnson and Thune are going to be offering a massive crime bill in the fall. But he's workshopping it through the media, using them as a split rail fence. But he's seen clearly we're on the other side.
Yeah, and then continue, polling numbers. And I can't remember if we talked about this last week. The New York Times did it was a pretty good segment on these voter registration numbers that have kicked way over to the Republican side. But again, I know there's a lot of time to work with. I said this to a guest yesterday, Cassie Smedley. I said, let's see where we are, a year from now, heading into these midterms. Maybe the economy is cratering. Maybe other things are happening. But there does not seem to be a definitive answer, Brian, to what the Democrats stand for at all, outside of hating Trump. That's really the only thing that they have right now.
I mean, I don't know if you Mark Penn on TV today, Democratic strategist, Karl Rove on radio today, Republican strategist, but understands he's got to know his opponent inside and out. He does a lot of appearances with David Axelrod. They become really fast friends, so they get it. And they know they're not message. And it was brought up to me, like, why the hell did they have that Minneapolis conference in front of cameras? It's just It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for them to come out there and say that what they're doing now, picking up illegal immigrants, is worse than the pandemic. To come out and
it's crazy.
Say, I hate these red hats.
It's ridiculous.
And
yeah,
Donald Trump,
Tim Walz. What a clown show we avoided just with him.
Well,
you could just focus on him, right?
Remember, Minneapolis is the haven for trans. How's that going to sound today as he addresses the media shortly?
We'll see, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what this kid is. He's got two names. He has got two genders. I just watched the tape of him reading the instructions to some type of manual. I mean, this guy's twisted. Not that I care what he said, but you just see him. And then I listened to this 11-minute tape, and hopefully if people do want to find out what goes on in this guy's head before he would shoot children in a church. Because, and he says that he goes, these kids will die. So there's nothing by accident.
No,
this guy is. So he's. This is some of the twisted things out there right now, and now you got to worry about kids going to church. You got to worry about private school. We're always worried about schools, but then you would think on the first day of school when the kids go to church in a Catholic school that wouldn't be a target, but it is when you shoot from the outside in.
I suppose I'm obligated here before we close to ask you about Cracker Barrel. I will tell you just candidly, I never really got the whole controversy about this. I get people being a little put off by removing the old dude in the barrel. But, man, that thing took on a life of its own, and then it's shifted real quickly yesterday afternoon, didn't it, Brian?
And then, they switched every logo back, and they now, the stock jumped up again. Okay. But in looking back, they do have to do a refresher. They say shares of Cracker Barrel had jumped after this move back, but the price has been down 55% over the last after the last 5 years. So if you're the CEO, you got to make a change. But if you're the CEO, you change by alienating. You add, you don't subtract. You build on the legacy and modernize and let them know we're not your old Cracker Barrel anymore. We're the restaurant you can count on, but we're offering so much more. You got to come see us, as opposed to, we apologize for putting a white guy whose slang term is cracker next to a barrel.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna stick by this, since we talk a lot about President Trump. If you go back to the 80s, his mantra from the book, I think, was even no publicity is bad publicity. More people are talking about Cracker Barrel than ever before in history combined. So I'm guessing they may still get some packed reservations because of all the attention. What's coming up on your show on Sunday night, Brian?
We're going to go. I'm going to speak to this guy. He's fascinating. He's the author of Apple in China, Patrick McGee. How China captured Apple, and without Apple, they wouldn't have any electric cars. They would have no mass production. Now they have something like 40 million engineers that Apple trained, and they no longer need Apple. You wouldn't have Huawei. They stole all the technology, and now they have all the manufacturing, and Apple is really being held hostage. So I'm going to factor in that along with the AI race, as well as how that factors in with energy with Lee Zeldin. And then we are going to, I know we have a special guest in the V block, and that
it's someone good, though.
Question.
It's someone damn good. I can put money on that, Brian Kilmeade. Listen, you have a great holiday weekend. Enjoy that new puppy. We'll talk next week.
Absolutely. All right. I will talk to you soon. Go get him.
Thanks, Brian. See ya. I can tell that Brian does not like leaving us, on a limb. He was struggling there to find that other guest, which he probably still is thinking about it, but I appreciate him coming on this afternoon.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we've got ongoing road work eastbound 70 right at Hanley. Well, maybe a little east of there, and you could get caught in that jam. But then things open up and look fine into downtown. Now, westbound is slowing, but it's mainly headed for Jennings Station Road. We've got southbound 55 with some volume, mainly right there at Bates. Now, westbound 40 lines up approaching Hampton out through McCausland, but it's also slow at 270. Now, mind you, this is all moderate volume. Now, on 94 westbound or 364, it's pretty slow tonight. We had an accident reported at Kisker, and that has caused a delay. If you are southbound on 270, look for moderate volume at 40 and headed for Gravois. Headed into Illinois, no delays on the bridges downtown. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Jerry Kelly can install a new AC tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, even if we call it 8 tonight.
Wow, that's fast.
They're fast and they're good.
Mathematically, that actually equals got it going on.
Tomorrow.
JerryKelly.com.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
If you or someone you know has a home to sell, call Gloria Lou. That's right, Gloria Lou, owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria is here with me now. And when it comes to St. Louis area market conditions, what advice do you have for your home sellers in today's market?
Well, most importantly, I understand every seller's situation is different. Some sellers need to sell, and some sellers want to sell. And a lot of my sellers are looking to buy, and they also have a home to sell. My advice in this uncertain market is to get an upfront written guarantee. That way, you know exactly how much you stand to make with your home sale. My guarantee sale offer is simple. I'll sell your home at 100% of market value, or I'll pay you the difference.
Take it from me, Mark Cox, an actual client. Sell with certainty and an upfront guarantee with Gloria Lou. Call 314-325-6888. That's 314-325-6888. Or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
From Arnold to Edwardsville, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, we'll continue to cover the shooting and the tragedy in Minneapolis with 2 dead, the number of injured now up to 17. You know, Sue, yesterday we were on the air when this Cracker Barrel story broke about them going back to the old logo, which I think, I had even telegraphed earlier in the show.
that might happen. And one thing that confused me in the aftermath of all this, remember I said I didn't really understand why there was so much hoopla around this. I get that we focus on Bud Light, et cetera, but we love our Steak and Shake here in St. Louis, right? So I noticed that the official account of Steak and Shake, which is at Steak and Shake on just with an N, of course, on the X formerly Twitter, they got right on top of this. And they said sometimes people want to change things just to put their own personality on things. At CB Cracker Barrel, their goal is to delete the personality altogether, hence the elimination of the, quote, old-timer from the signage. Heritage is what got Cracker Barrel this far, and now the CEO wants to scrape it all away. At Steak and Shake, we take pride in our history, our families, and American values. All are welcome. We will never market ourselves away from our past in a cheap effort to gain the approval of trend seekers. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty aggressive, like for another restaurant chain. But there's an explanation to this. Asra Nomani is with us, a regular on the show. We love her. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Network and the founder of the Pearl Network. And you, Asra, wrote a great piece that connects the dots for me, and I appreciate it so much.
I'm so glad that, you didn't understand. Why would they go out, take a risk, right?
I didn't get it. And then, you know, if you look at the timeline on Twitter, they're super aggressive about this all the way up until yesterday and beyond. So put this together for my listeners.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So first of all, if nobody knows, Cracker Barrel, it goes back to 1969. Right. And I remember that year because that's the year I arrived in the United States of America.
Awesome.
So a history, a moment of history. So here we have this, restaurant chain. It's based in Tennessee, and it's moving along. And then it gets this investor in the 2000s, 2011. And it's this man who is a self-made millionaire in the United States. His dad fled Iran, if you can believe this story. And he worked under the Shah Reza Pahlavi. The Iranian theocracy came in. You would have never expect this story, right, with Cracker Barrel?
Right.
But then, so it's so interesting when you go back to origin stories. So this young man, Sardar Biglari is his name. He becomes a millionaire in his 20s. He creates some tech companies, and dad has a Persian carpet business. It's just like the quintessential immigration story. So there they are in San Antonio, and he gets money. He makes money, and he creates this investment house. And what does he invest in? He invests in Cracker Barrel. And he also goes on to invest in your favorite
Steak and Shake.
Yes, exactly. So, and Fridays, Western Sizzling, like the whole series, you get the theme here. Yeah. So he successfully becomes the CEO of Steak and Shake. So this is the story. This is why Steak and Shake is now invested in Cracker Barrel, because the CEO then tries to get things straight at Cracker Barrel. But he's got a board and a CEO that precedes the current CEO who just think he's egomaniac. There's an article that somebody published that he's an evil genius. There's just like, he's like, sometimes when I used to cover the airline industry, they called him gadflies,
Right. Yeah.
Pests. And so, but the guy, he's running, like you said, Steak and Shake, and you like it. So that's the backstory here, is that Steak and Shake is moving along. Cracker Barrel is then got this CEO that we now know more about, and we now know that they had the sins of the past, because in 1991, they didn't actually allow anybody who was gay to work at the company for a while. But then, then America, like that kind of discrimination or that kind of.
Well, it was a very different time. Yeah. The 80s and 90s, very different time. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like everybody was like living in the closet. There was like, I grew up in that time, right? Like it was everything was emerging, and policies were emerging, workplace policies. So then it was just a matter of months, and then it became equal opportunity, and there wasn't that discrimination, but they had that little blight, right? And so then over the 2000s, they started doing this rainbow rocking chairs, that became controversial for people. But the thing is with Sardar Biglari is that he didn't actually protest any of that stuff. He was just like, you're wasting your money. Like what happened is last May, the CEO just had this investor call and she said, we're going to pump 700 million. Like this is like not underestimation here. 700 million, she said, over the next 3 years into rebranding and refurbishing our restaurants. And that's when Biglari was like, waste of money, waste of time. And the quote that I liked the best from him was, when the company was created in 1969, it was already dated because it had this 1920s motif. So that's the backstory.
Yeah, so he actually writes a 7-page letter to shareholders, and he says Cracker Barrel is not a broken brand, but it has a broken board. So that happens last year, and throughout this, there's obviously, the ranks are not all happy here. There's dissension among the ranks, and then this happens. And when it happens, boy, he decides to get very public with his criticism on the Steak and Shake website, right?
Yeah, because like the board blew him off. Like he tried to get a seat or two on the board, and they convinced the shareholders to vote against him. And these are big names. Like BlackRock is a huge investor also in Cracker Barrel. So this is like what I think none of us really realize when we go, hey, let's go get dinner at Panera or whatever. We don't think about the money that is invested in these corporations, right? And that's what he has been a part of. And he fired off these PowerPoints. And the point of my piece and on Fox Business, or if people can just Google literally Cracker Barrel and my name, and you'll find the piece right away, is I wanted to just show that like this is not just a story of like political correctness gone awry. This is a story of corporate myopia. Like they just put blinders on to a guy who they might not have liked, but he was giving some legit corporate feedback, let's say, and they just barreled ahead, no pun intended, and they completely, then they had this fiasco, and that's what he predicted.
Yeah, he even says, let me make my position clear. The company's $700 million remodel plan will not work! ! He seems like he's getting part of that right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's him trolling again, and he has a red cap because now famously he bought Maxim magazine too.
Yes,
everybody
I saw
got
that
in their on their coffee table, and he endorsed Donald Trump for president in the 2024 election, and he created this red cap in which he created a meme. Biglari was correct, and then fire the CEO.
Yeah, it says fire Cracker Barrel CEO. The Steak and Shake, for those people who do not follow Steak and Shake, and I just started, and if you haven't seen some of this that he's posted in the last week, it's quite entertaining. Yeah, he has, even they say hats for sale soon. Biglari was right about Cracker Barrel, kind of, making reference to the hat that Trump wore. And then when Trump goes on Truth Social about the old logo, they say, great idea, Mr. President. We appreciate your sage advice. So it was fascinating. I'm so glad I saw your column, Asra, because that tied it together. It was mysterious to me why another restaurant chain would be that aggressive, but now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and then people will say, why do we care? Why should we care? But I just want to remind everybody, St. Louis, what was it the home of? TWA.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I was a Cub airline reporter at the Wall Street Journal, and I covered it when Carl Icahn bought TWA. And TWA is gone now. That TWA was the airplane that brought me to America from India. It was like a knife in my heart covering those stories. I talked to the pilots, the unions, the flight attendants, the middle managers losing jobs. These are important stories because a business is also an employer, right? And it's a life. Like we go, this is where people have date night, so there's like so many implications for society that business has that's why we have to pay attention.
Absolutely. Look, we had, that was devastating. We lost a big Chrysler plant in the area that I live right now. So I can appreciate that for sure. Asra, you're always fantastic as a guest. I'm glad you wrote the column. Thank you so much and have a great Labor Day weekend.
You too. Take care.
All right,
Okay,
take
bye-bye.
care. I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah.
And again, I have to send this to my wife because she was the one that put in on my radar that Steak and Shake was involved. I'm like, that seems weird, but not so weird anymore, I guess.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got volume out there westbound 70 as you head for 79. There is an accident reported just west of there and heavy traffic back near Mid Rivers. Eastbound 70 slowing east of Hanley due to road work. Westbound is slowing at Jennings Station Road. Southbound 55, most of the volume there is headed down toward Bates. Moderate volume on westbound 6440. And that starts approaching Hampton out through McCausland. A little bit of moderate volume through Chesterfield Valley. Slowing then from Highway N out through 70. Southbound 270, slow pockets Page down through Gravois. And if you're headed into Illinois, we actually look fine on the bridges downtown. This report brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis, full of the latest, most custom designs. And it's located in Chesterfield Valley. There you'll see why they say creativity unlimited, quality unsurpassed. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's Traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Man, I forgot to watch Hard Knocks last night. The new episode of Hard Knocks on Max. I will watch tonight. I'm so excited about football being back. And one reason is because of Underdog Fantasy. And you can play it right now in Missouri. And Underdog has become the best place to select entries and win money all season long. And it really is very easy. If you fast forward to next week with the opening of the National Football League, the Chiefs play on Friday night. You choose whether your players, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, will go higher or lower on the stat line. Touchdowns, receiving yards, rushing yards, interceptions, and more. Get your entries right. You can win up to 5,000 times your cash, and you can play with as little as $1. And I'm going to, in a roundabout way, gift you a little money to play with here via Underdog and what they're providing. When you sign up, you download the app, you get your username, you sign up with the promo code MARKR, and when you make a deposit, that will score you $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. So as long as you make a deposit and you make a pick in the Champions game for $5, you'll get that extra $50 in bonus funds, but you have to use the promo code MARKR. Millions of fans have already won billions making plays on Underdog. The only question is, will you be next? Underdog, make plays, win money in Missouri. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
From border security to school choice, the Constitution to the culture war. Made in America. Heard in the Midwest. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Have you been notified that your subsidy for Obamacare health insurance is going away? Well, you can leave now while you are still healthy and can qualify for much better individual plans. Greg Hammonds at greghammonds.com has been helping people get affordable health insurance with great coverage for over 35 years. Greg offers private health insurance plans that are not on the ACA marketplace. You can pick your doctors. For most claims, you won't even pay a deductible, and they're 30 to 60% lower cost than Obamacare. One more thing, there's no tax penalty at the end of the year. Greg even has plans that are guaranteed acceptance. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg at 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to greghammonds.com. That's greghammonds.com. He can custom design a plan by you, not the government.
What's the most important thing when it comes to getting your roof replaced? Honesty, because honestly, most of us don't know what it takes to replace a roof. Mark Cox here from my friends at Correll Roofing Company. Curtis Correll is a friend of mine. I've known him for many years. And when he came to my house to look at my roof, he brought back pictures and showed me where the damage was from the hail. He worked with my insurance adjuster. He made sure I understood exactly what they would be replacing on my roof. Are they putting down felt? Are they replacing any wood? What quality of shingle are you getting on your roof? These are all questions most of us don't know to ask, so you need to be able to trust the person who is doing the work for you. You can trust Curtis Correll. He's got crews with over 20 years of experience. He pays attention to detail with quality materials and workmanship. Call him at 314-222-9529. That's 314-222-9529, or Corel Roofing Co. on Facebook.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Reardon's back. Smarter talk for the Show Me State. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Sometimes it's very difficult for me to pick, like, we do in 2 hours audio cut of the day, and I always kind of go to the that one piece of audio. Unfortunately, today, we may have to go in the direction of this terrible shooting in Minneapolis. However, here is a strong contender, and this is one of those, Sue, we have to be, Ethan and Fred and I, and we all have to be kind of aware that AI might play a role in some of this stuff. And we've been tricked a couple of times. I'll send some audio to Ethan, and we'll discover, no, that's not real. But what I'm about to play to you is rather stunning. It really is. And I think it's real. And every indication is it's real. It's Muriel Bowser, who is the mayor of Washington, D.C. And of course, not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump decided to get involved with the National Guard and do something about crime in the D.C. area. It was roundly criticized and continues to be criticized by people on the left, including the legacy media. They don't get why Donald Trump is trying to address the issue of crime. Now, from the beginning, Muriel Bowser kind of straddled a little bit of a line here, recognizing that her city does have safety issues, but also blasted the president for having the National Guard move in. But listen to what she said today about one particular aspect of the crime figures, and that's carjackings.
And we greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly.
She wants to make sure she gets it correctly, but let me kind of recount. So it was the number of carjacking she's going to address. That's what she's talking about. It had begun to go down, right? It started to go down, but it wasn't really at a number that they were comfortable with. But listen to what's happened in the last couple of weeks. I mean, she's got her glasses on checking this out.
But for carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C.
I'm sorry.
Did you catch that? Did you catch?
I think I got that.
87%
my gosh.
reduction in the last 2 weeks.
We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer.
Yeah.
So this surge has been important to us for that reason.
How dare that fascist Donald Trump send troops into Washington, D.C., and how dare the whole thing work in reducing carjackings over the course of 1 year by 87%, which again, a lot of those are gun crimes. So it's weird to me. So it's so confusing. I don't know how this would apply to maybe a city like St. Louis. How would showing criminals that there are police on the streets and that if you do something and get arrested, there might be consequences. How would that reduce crime? I'm very confused. It's not like that's not something we've been talking about literally now for, well, I would say certainly since 2014 and Mike Brown. But that is quite the soundbite with Muriel Bowser having to eat a lot of her words.
Love it.
And I hope it gets a lot of attention.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we've had some issues out there. Well, eastbound 70. There's road work just past Hanley causing a delay. Southbound 270 slowing at 70. Southbound 270 also slow pockets from Page down through Doherty Ferry. Now, there was an accident on 70 westbound past 79. Looks like they got that cleared. Some moderate volume out there now. And westbound 40, it's slow pockets between Kings Highway and 270 through Chesterfield Valley, and then N out through the 70 split. Southbound 55 slowing at Bates. We still look okay on the Illinois side and on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Wednesday edition of Sue's News just around the corner in the next hour. Let's talk about Banner Construction. Home restoration, that's a big deal. It's a big project. The number one thing maybe you should think about is who is going to do that. Which contractor is going to take care of putting beautiful James Hardy fiber cement siding on your home, or maybe some Pella replacement windows. You got the windows open right now because it's not so hot, right? But you know that when it was hot, your air conditioning was getting out too quickly and the hot air was seeping in, and the reverse happened in the winter. So you want to do something about it. And when Mother Nature constantly assaults the exterior of your home, that includes windows, Banner is dedicated to make sure that they pair high-end products, Pella replacement windows, James Hardy fiber cement siding, with a great company here that's been doing it for 30 plus years. The design team would love to sit down with you, show you some options to enhance your home's new restoration. It's a free in-home design consultation. It's just a phone call away at 314-569-1050 or the website bannerconstruction.com.
This report is sponsored by McKelvey Homes.
Hi, I'm Jim Brennan at McKelvey Homes. Have you always wished for a brand new home in an established neighborhood? Select one of our move-in ready custom homes throughout St. Louis, or we will build on your lot. Visit McKelveyHomes.com and move up to McKelvey.
Guys, it's time to take charge of your health with my friends at Victory Men's Health. Mark Cox here. I already love what they do at Victory. They do hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, even vitamin deficiencies. Now they're offering specialty cardiovascular testing and even early detection cancer screening. Visit them at one of their 4 great locations, now in Sunset Hills, Town and Country, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. Tell them Mark Cox sent you. Go to victorymenshealth.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group. Are you worried about market volatility? Are you concerned your money won't last you through retirement?
Hi, I'm Tammy Kershaw, and as a family-owned business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. We have a lot of folks that aren't aware of all the new investment choices that are available, which give you growth and protection from losses at the same time. Are you aware of all the fees that you are currently paying? We can show you how to avoid those fees. So come in now for your free retirement review and get a second opinion on your retirement plan. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. Let us show you how to retire with confidence.
We are proud to say we haven't lost a penny of our clients' money in 39 years, and we won't lose a penny of yours either. Let our family help your family. Call us now at 314-993-9494 or go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
Not the best crowd at Busch Stadium last night. Joe Buck even took notice of that. We'll talk about that and a bunch of other stuff. Our friend Alex Rich will visit in the next hour as well.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
This is a Fox News alert. A manifesto in Minnesota on Lisa Brady, but still no confirmed motive as police investigate the deadly mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis during a mass for students from the nearby Catholic school.
We lost 2 angels today.
School principal Matt Du Bois after 2 students ages 8 and 10 were killed, 3 elderly parishioners, and 14 students injured, including this 10-year-old survivor's friend who shielded him.
My friend Victor, he was laying on top of me, making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
That 5th grader says they had never practiced active shooter drills in the church, only in the main school building. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says the shooter opened fire from outside the church, targeting pews through the stained glass windows, and then committing suicide.
As to the weapons used to perpetrate this horrific attack, there was a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. All 3 had been lawfully purchased by the shooter.
He's not confirming any potential motive, but the FBI is investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. The shooter, identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman, who was born Robert, and court papers show had a name change as a minor, citing gender identity. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry says he's heard about a lot of hate being directed at the trans community.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity.
Police confirming Westman's mother had worked at the Catholic school and that a manifesto had been posted on YouTube, since taken down. President Trump earlier ordering flags to half-staff in honor of the victims. America is listening to Fox News.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
You ever try fixing your car and realize you're missing that one part? Yeah, been there. That's why eBay's my go-to. They've got millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. I'm talking brake pads for when yours have seen one too many miles of stop and go. Oil filters, because you don't mess around with your engine care. Even got this cold air intake on my watch list. I might just go for it. To keep the ride cool and your DIY streak hot. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Still super duper weather in place for evening plans. Our temperatures falling through the 70s, partly cloudy skies. 60 should do it for the low. This pattern is not breaking at all. On Thursday, partly sunny skies. We're going to keep a chance of a spot shower. Really tough to find. 84 for the high. It's probably the warmest day of the next several days. Thursday night clear and 61. Friday sunny 82. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, welcome back. 4 o'clock hour of the Mark Reardon Show on a Wednesday afternoon, and a beautiful Wednesday at that. How gorgeous is this weather? Our friend Alex Rich swinging by for conversation during this hour. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Did you get
Great day out there.
Sue, did you get out and enjoy the weather at all?
No, not. I'm just kind of crazy busy right now. In a couple weeks, when it's hot again, that's when I'll have time.
Yeah.
I'm in that stage right now where I look for any excuse to get out there. So, like, you know, it's that time of the year where I am very, very strict on using the blower to blow off my deck.
Yes.
Blow off my, like, it's that specific time of the year. Fall, you do it, but you just can't keep up because the leaves fall so quickly. This is like just the perfect time of the year where you just got a clean path, a clean deck to just sit on and enjoy the weather.
I would agree with
that. And I'm a really big fan, if you couldn't tell by me talking about this, of sitting out on my deck, a clean deck in this beautiful weather.
Well, and I have the puppy outside, and I've been playing with him, and he's doing great. So the weather is very accommodating for that as well.
You know what? I need to bring Ralph over because I
Yeah.
was just talking to Annie about this today. He's lonely. You lose the
You
brother.
lost a dog.
We
Right.
did, and I think I'm seeing it. I'm seeing him kind of. You know, they always follow you around a little bit, but they need a little bit more attention.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm learning that he took a lot of his like play time out on the other dog, and the other dog's not there to keep him in check. So now he bothers me all the time.
Well, I think there is something to that. Look, when we made the move very quickly on a puppy in June after Duke, my other dog, had passed away. And Alex, you knew Duke because you'd been at my house many times, and he was a great dog. But you know, part of the reason is because Olaf, our little terrier, who's about 13 years old, we thought, well, he's going to be super lonely. Well, for the first month and a half, we've had this dog now 3 months almost, but from at least 7 weeks, Olaf just hated him. You know, he would want to play with Olaf, and then he would nip him, and then Olaf's like, forget it, dude, I'm not having any of this. But in the last few weeks, and I was witnessing this last night, and dogs are kind of fun
when they adjust to the surroundings. And we're told that No Leash Needed, where he goes and he does daycare, that he'll just kind of sit in the middle of the yard and he just lays on his side and he sprawls backwards. And that's kind of, his submission position, if you will, for the other dogs to come in and play. And he's been doing that with Olaf. So I was watching him last night. He's just kind of, licking Olaf a little bit, not nipping him, very gently, and then kind of falling over on his side to show that he's not necessarily the one who needs to be dominant. And Olaf's wagging his tail, and they're sitting next to one another and sleeping next to one another now. So it took a long time, but I'm with you. So I guess is what I'm saying is you need to get a puppy, Alex.
That's what I'm
hearing.
Mark,
that's what I'm hearing.
I think you need the Nobel Dog Award, Nobel Dog Prize.
Yes, really. It is working out.
It's not only for that, but as I mentioned yesterday, that everyone's getting along. The cats and the bunny. I was very concerned about Oreo with the puppy because the puppy's so hyper and aggressive and everything. But now they get along. Everyone's doing fine. And the whole Reardon Zoo is at one, if you will.
One.
well,
it kind of is true. Yeah,
I'd say so. All right,
you have like an honorary zoo degree, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean, you're pretty well versed in if you add a new animal of some sort to the home.
Now, I'll tell you what I'm well versed in is vet bills. That's what I'm extremely well versed in. We had another issue with one of the cats today. Had to take one of the cats in Coco for a little weird bacterial infection around her ear. So the vets are kept very very
keep
safe.
them in business.
Yeah. So school has started. Sue's been highlighting that with traffic reports the last week. Alex, your wife is
she's fifth grade teacher.
Weird to say that your wife is a teacher, like wife, when I say
know.
that word. So that's interesting. Annie's fifth grade. That's what Alexa is now.
Okay.
She's in fifth grade. In California and across the country, they're having some problems because the Biden administration there's an electric bus maker, Lion Electric, and they were given $159 million to manufacture 435 school buses between 2022 and 2024. So these are EVs. These are electric buses, making it the third largest recipient of such funding. So here's the problem. The company, Lion Electric, has fallen into bankruptcy. They cannot deliver the hundreds of buses that they promised, and they warned school districts that because of the financial situation, we can't help you with all these buses. So of course they're turning back to diesel and killing the environment. The Free Beacon is reporting that Lion, then nearing bankruptcy, had yet to deliver $95 million worth of the electric buses, but it pledged, to produce some other ones. The Biden administration's $5 billion clean school bus program was where this all came from. Lion was sold for just $6 million.
That's it?
Yeah, because it was in bankruptcy. It was valued at 4.7. Boy, that's even a better deal than the guy got on the AT&T building.
Right.
So somebody bought it for $6 million. It was valued at 4.7 as recently as June of 2021. But keep in mind what they had to do here is they had to shutter plants. They had to fire the majority of the employees. They told consumers and school districts they couldn't not only could they not provide the new buses, but if there was a warranty on one of their EVs that you had purchased from earlier in the decade, well, they can't help you with that anymore, which is kind of interesting. So that's part of the green energy failures of the Biden administration. I'm sure that's happening time and time again over. One of the things I want to talk about, Alex, when we wrap up with Sue's news is, and I saw this up on Will Kane's show, I've had it on my list for a couple of days. Remember the big concert in the aftermath of all the fires? They did Fire Aid. One of my favorite bands, Dawes, they had lost a bunch of equipment in a studio in that fire, and they were a big part of that. I can't remember where they streamed it, but it was on the streaming platforms. It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Most of the artists, I do remember a couple of people not being able to get the words out, or there was something. There was someone in particular who came out on a chair, and it didn't sound very good at all. But the point of part of this story is they raised $100 million from all that, and they don't quite know where all the money is. In other words, how did the money get doled out? It went to different charities and different organizations, but in the LA Times, it was either on Sunday or Monday. I think this might have been a Sunday story. They were having a particular problem of patching it all together, figuring out who actually got the money. I always wonder about that in these situations, not to rip on the Red Cross in any way, shape, or form. The Red Cross is there for a lot of these things that happen, but you also wonder, how much of the actual money that you might donate in the aftermath of a terrible wildfire, a hurricane, or something along those lines actually lands in people's pockets or goes to help. And we would hope that in the situation with the Red Cross, it would be very high confidence that that money would land in the right place. But, a lot of these charities have high salaries and a lot of overhead. And sometimes it's a little stunning how much actual money that you donate gets put to good use. We're going to have Sue's News coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I do want to talk when we come back about the Cardinals' lack of fans last night. Joe Buck even highlighted that. There is a story about screwworms that I've been dying to get a little bit of time for. If you haven't heard about that, that'll freak you out. That's coming up. And then at 5 o'clock, Brad Young's going to join us. 97.1 FM Talk Chief Legal Analyst. We'll have Phil Holloway weighing in on the shooting in Minneapolis and some other stories at 5:32 this afternoon.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
I'm looking at the camera 6440 at Lake St. Louis Boulevard, and it is jammed out there. It's a slow go. Now, 40 westbound in the city is mainly slow in Kings Highway out through McCausland. Then you've got some volume in pockets through 270, Chesterfield Valley. Really lines up Highway N out through 70. 70 out of downtown, moderate volume at Jennings Station Road and at K. Southbound 170 is pretty slow at 6440, but just moderate volume along southbound 270. Page down through Gravois. On the Illinois side, eastbound 64 due to road work slowing 157 through 159. This report brought to you by Diamond, the Diamond Shop. I couldn't remember that for a minute. The Diamond Shop, making St. Louis sparkle for over 100 years. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Start your day refreshed with a delicious breakfast sandwich deal from Quick Trip. Choose from classics like the sausage, egg, and cheese croissant, the ham, egg, and cheese biscuit, or the melty bacon, egg, and cheese grilled cheese. And get ready to really wake up because it comes with
any small Red Bull of your choice, all for $5. Woo! Let's go!
That's any breakfast sandwich.
Plus a Red Bull for just $5. Yeah!
QT.
More than a gas station.
Many people dream of learning how to play the piano. Hi, this is Kathy from Lacefield Music, but few ever do. And here are a few of the reasons why. I can't read music, it will take too long, it's too expensive, it's too hard, or I've tried before and I failed. This would be true with most piano lessons, but not with Lacefield Music's innovative adult piano classes. With Lacefield Music's classes, you will learn how to read music and play with both your right and left hand the very first week. And you'll be able to play all your favorite songs in only 8 weeks. Maybe not fast, but you'll be able to play them. Lacefield Music's adult piano course is usually $100, but only twice a year we open this course up to the public for the low price of only $29.99. That's only $29.99 for all 8 weeks. What have you got to lose? Classes are forming now in our Chesterfield location. Call 636-778-2070 or go to lacefieldmusic.com to sign up online. That's lacefieldmusic.com.
Hi, this is Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst, certified financial planner, and the host of the Jill on Money podcast. This is the show where your money is not scary. It's a show that's all about you. It's your questions that make it possible for me to provide unconventional and entertaining insights on your money, and more importantly, on your life. Listen and follow Jill on Money on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
He's not here to play nice. He's here to make you think. Mark Reardon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Here is just some breaking news here. Tweet from Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, on the shooting. Unfortunately, we've had to cover that quite a bit here on the show in Minneapolis. 2 people dead, 17 injured. There is an expectation that everyone that's in the hospital will survive, which is good news. Kristi Noem just sending out a tweet that said, we have confirmation that the shooter at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was a 23-year-old man claiming to be transgender. This deranged monster targeted our most vulnerable young children praying in their first morning mass of the school year. This deeply sick murderer scrawled the words "for the children" and "where is your God" and killed Donald Trump on a Rifle magazine. This level of violence is unthinkable. Our deepest prayers are with the children, families, educators, and Christians everywhere. We mourn with them. We pray for healing, and we will never forget them. That story obviously still developing. There has been at least 2 news conferences with officials in Minneapolis sort of going over the details, and we could even have another one before the show is open. And we'll certainly keep you tracked or posted on that if they do develop.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Today is National Just Because Day, which encourages people to do things simply for the sake of it. Fred, you can do that.
I think I do that all the time.
Oh, that's true. You probably do.
I think I do that all the time.
Fred went on a mission of to save his wife today. Fred, what happened?
Well, she's got a new electric bike that she likes to ride. And around noon or so, she texted me and said, hey, I just blew a tire. And she was way far from home. And she's like, I'll just walk it home. And I'm like, no, I'll just come and get you. So just took off in the middle of the day and went down to Limay Park and found her on the side of Limay Road.
Oh, that's
so how far away was that? Like, if she would have done it and walked home, what would that? How
that would have been miles,
couple miles
wouldn't
or?
it? Yeah. And that's no fun with a bike, especially an e-bike. Those things are heavy.
But it was like I was part of
true, actually.
It was like I was part of a bike crew. I just pulled up alongside, opened the hatch, threw the bike in. She hopped in. We took off.
Well, that was very nice of you, but she didn't wreck or anything like that, right?
She flew off, but she's fine.
Ooh, she flew off because the tire went flat, or
well, she ran into the curb when she swerved from another bike.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it gets busy down there. Yep.
Yeah.
Did she throw down with the other biker? Will we see that on Instagram? It went viral.
I don't think the other biker even noticed. Just kept on going.
That's the worst, isn't it?
Yes.
We took her to Southside Cyclery, and the bike's all repaired.
Oh, good. That place is great, by the way. You can also celebrate National Peach Day and National Pot de Creme Day. I like a pot de creme.
I don't know what a pot de creme is.
What is it?
That dessert that's a cream. It's like a cream-based dessert. Creme brulee, they do the burn. They burn the sugar on top. This isn't that. It's softer and just it's really delicious.
Say it again. What was it?
Pot de creme.
Pot de creme.
What was the first one? I believe peach was involved.
National Peach Day.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't there a peach cobbler that was made more recently by someone on this show?
Yes, there was.
Why wasn't there not a repeat performance of that on National Peach Day?
Because that person just found out today. Who knows where any of her pans are?
You did tell me, I said to you that I don't really know to this day what a cobbler is versus a pie. I just know that it was delicious.
That is a good question.
But you said, wait, I make you peach pie. So that challenge is still out there.
That's true.
And
I like a peach pie better than a peach cobbler. That may just be me. Anyone care?
Does a cobbler have more like liquidity to it?
Yes.
Would you say? Is that the right word? How about that word?
That is good.
I don't know where that just came.
Does it though? Because
I think it's got like more of like a pudding based.
Well, the main part is the same, but the crust is a normal crust for a peach pie. But a cobbler is more of a cake thing on top.
You see, I like that.
Yeah,
whatever you did, do the same thing again. I thought that was great.
All right.
Seriously,
let me get right on that.
By the way, I want it known too to the group, just because I mentioned this to Fred, that I did some more baking over the weekend.
Yeah,
and I literally yesterday had my little Tupperware thing of chocolate chips right at the end of the counter to bring in here and to share. Right, and my wife says, "Well, are you taking all those cookies?" And I'm like, apparently not. I'm hands up, because
how many you think it was?
Well, there were 9 or 10 of them or something like that. And I backed off and put them right back. Apparently
did not want me to share with
Couldn't
the
even take any
group.
of them, huh?
Right. Well,
Yeah, well, that's noted.
yes,
I think.
right.
Yeah.
And that's not on me. I just want that clear.
God forbid you make a few more next time. man.
Well,
Right.
I will make a few more next time. I'll do some more this weekend.
Well, on this day in history, 41 years ago, it was in 1984 when President Reagan announced that school teacher Krista McAuliffe, I don't remember. Do you remember how to pronounce that?
McAuliffe, yeah.
Would be the first private citizen to fly aboard a space shuttle, and she was killed when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded in January of 1986. But teacher Barbara Morgan, who was her backup for that flight, completed the teacher in space mission, so to speak, by being part of the successful Space Shuttle Endeavour mission in August of 2007. And I just wonder, if I were a backup for someone that was in a tragedy like that, whether I would even go.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just, wow. I know it was many years later, but woo, I don't know if I would risk it.
That's one of those moments where I literally can remember I was living at 10th and Locust, downtown Columbia, across from the Greyhound bus station that no longer hasn't existed for a long time. In fact, where I used to live, the house is now all condos. But I remember walking in. This was in the early days of cable and CNN and the nonstop coverage that they had and the networks had about that.
You know, there's an interesting story today out about AI going wrong. And I know we're really at the very beginning of AI, but I can only imagine. Stefanina's Pizzeria in St. Charles County had to put a warning out on their Facebook page that Google AI is putting out fake specials for their menu and that they cannot honor them. So here we've got Eva Gannon of Stefanina's Pizza and Jonathan Hannanen from Washington University talking about the issue.
A small pizza, you get the second pizza for $4. We've never offered that special. It also tells you that we offer a large for the price of a small pizza. That's not true. We can't, as a small family business, honor a Google AI special.
It will sometimes take liberties to get you the result that you're looking for. How are you asking prompts? How are you asking questions? The collective conversation and not just this like binary call and response.
Just come to us for any information regarding us. And really, when it comes to any other company.
See, there's a topic I never even would have thought about, right?
Me neither. So Google AI is just trying to get you a deal.
So if you just search the restaurant and you type it in, it's putting out basically specials that they
are too good to fulfill.
That don't
Google's
exist.
just doing it on its own.
Right.
AI
That's the way I
making
interpret
that
that.
up.
I originally had thought that the restaurant was using AI to come up with specials. That's what you were saying. But that makes a lot of sense. That also explains why when I go search stuff on Google, sometimes it does give you an answer that's just kind of
like what?
Well, kind of like that, or maybe it's sometimes the exact answer that you're looking for, but it's too good to be true type thing.
Yep.
Which seems like the case here in the restaurant specials.
Imagine how frustrating it would be at the restaurant when somebody comes in and says, "Yeah, this I understand. I get this for $4," and they're like, "What?"
I mean, hey, if Google says so, right?
Or exactly, because we think that's everything. Fred found this story. There is a St. Louis jury has found a man guilty of a Kohl's cash scam. Marshall Lampkin would use the Kohl's cash coupons to buy items at a physical store, then immediately use the same coupons to buy things on the Kohl's website because he figured out it took a little while for the Kohl's to register the in-person transactions. So then he would return whatever he bought in store for a refund. And he did this more than 100 times in 40 stores in 13 states. And in all, he scammed Kohl's out of $200,000. The jury found him guilty of mail fraud, and they did so in less than 7 minutes. So
Maybe I'm
that's
crazy, but this seems, borderline brilliant and kind of a flaw on the side of Kohl's.
I'm with Alex on that. That's fascinating to me.
He is just using his coupon that's on them to cancel it out of the system. I mean, that's like saying if you have a gift card, okay, and you go to a restaurant, say, right, and they scan it, they take it back, they do their thing, and you go and you look and you still got the same amount of credit on the card. We're all probably not going to say, hey, you forgot to scan my card for the amount of you're going to be like, okay, I won. I get to use it again. That's all this guy did. He just over and over again.
Except of the taking back of the clothes. In other words, okay, I mean, I get it, but he did that on purpose, knowing that he was pulling off a scam and then returning it because he had bought it. No.
A for effort, but still illegal, right?
200 grand. That's a lot of money. All right. YouTube is now the most watched streaming service again. So this is 6 months straight. And this is according to Nielsen. And Nielsen only records TV viewing. So when you think about how much people watch it on their phones, it's probably a lot more. But they say YouTube is now 13.4% of the viewing market. And streaming next is Disney. Disney is number 2. But that's Disney and Hulu, which will eventually become one app. Netflix was number 3, and it has 8.8% of TV viewers. And whatever this is, the K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix.
I've been seeing that.
Okay, have you watched it?
Couldn't tell you what it is.
No, I couldn't either.
No.
I've seen the.
I'd have to imagine
come
it's,
up.
It's for
they
the
hunt
kids.
demons.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. But they say it has set a Netflix record for the most views with 236 million. So whatever that is, I pretty much am not going to watch anything with the word demon in it. But
I miss the, and I guess this is something, I don't know when they announced, but Disney and Hulu are going to one app? Okay.
By next year, there will be one app.
I didn't know that.
So it stinks because I like Hulu. I don't want Disney.
But
I got to get both now.
I wonder what they're going to do with the subscriptions now.
Yeah,
well, they're going to raise it.
They're going to raise
see,
it.
that's a
make it
trifecta
one.
thing. You got ESPN Plus. ESPN is making some changes right now, but that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't like it. Steve Carell and John Krasinski surprised the cast of The Office spinoff The Paper on their first day of filming to wish them good luck. And it was all because they happened to be next door filming a coffee commercial. And they were like, oh, hey. Wow. They're filming next door, but the cast was all thrilled and they felt like, oh, it's good luck that they're here. So that's going to kick off pretty soon. And I'm going to have to wrap this up. All right. And finally, in Sue's News, we have today's random fact, but you got to stay with me. It's long.
Okay.
In 1925, archaeologists were excavating the ruins of ancient Babylon when they discovered a museum. The museum dated back to 530 BC, and there were artifacts from 2,000 years before that. So imagine digging through the ruins of a place nearly 2,500 years old and finding artifacts that archaeologists then discovered from 2,000 years before that. So it was a gold mine of all kinds of stuff, and it went back 4,000 years.
And I'm sorry, where was this?
This was the ruins of ancient Babylon.
All right.
Items were neatly arranged side by side. They even had museum labels. So we've had museums for that
They
long.
uncovered this digging?
Yeah.
They were digging deep, I guess.
Yes, they were.
Very fascinating. Wrapping up Sue's News here for a Wednesday afternoon.
I'm Jim Chesko with your Money Now. Demand for artificial intelligence infrastructure shows no signs of fading. That's clear from NVIDIA's quarterly results out after today's market close. The chip giant's data center revenue soared 56% from a year ago, and both earnings and total revenue slightly beat analysts' expectations. Net income was up a sharp 59% year over year. Despite the generally positive report, NVIDIA shares are down 2.25% in extended trading. Meanwhile, shares of Five Below are up more than 3% in late trading. This after the discount retailer posted better than expected quarterly results and issued robust guidance for the remainder of the fiscal year. Comparable store sales were up nearly 12.5% in the latest quarter. In regular Wednesday trading activity, stocks pushed higher. The Dow Jones Industrials today added 147 points. The Nasdaq gained 45, and the S&P 500 with a 15-point rise earned a fresh closing high. That's your Money Now.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ALL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text ALL to 321-321. That's ALL to 321-321.
Many of you know that my inspiration for becoming an accident attorney was my brother Tim, who was rendered a quadriplegic at age 18. I didn't know what a personal injury lawyer was or what they did, but I soon did. Tim was treated terribly by the insurance company, and I became enraged. It was a constant delay and deny. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Tim later worked with me for 27 years. Last year, my hero died at age 65. You can see my eulogy for him by visiting mybrothertim.com. He was one hell of a man. Because of Tim, together we built the largest injury firm in the world, and our clients are treated the way I would want my family to be treated. At Morgan & Morgan, nobody is a nobody and everybody is a somebody. If you need our help, visit forthepeople.com on your phone or computer. See you soon, Tim. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Injured? Dial Pound Law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
432, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
Where common sense rules the mic. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Fred, was that last Friday we were at the baseball game, or two Fridays ago?
It was
like 2 Fridays ago, and we had a lot of fun that night. But then there was this story on Monday that said, this was in our local paper, to find the last time the Cardinals had a smaller home crowd than the announced gathering of 17,675 fans at Busch Stadium on Monday against Pittsburgh. You have to go back 28 years. On Monday, this is weird too, because of the date. On August 25th, 1997.
What?
Isn't it the same date that they're talking about? Isn't
yeah,
that weird?
today is what, the 27th?
Today's the 27th, but this was, talking about the game on Monday. Montreal was in town. That tells you how long ago it was, right? It was Montreal. 16,965 fans gathered to watch Pedro Martinez, who was pitching for the Expos at the time, win in a 2-1 game. That was a season that the Cardinals finished 73-89. The average attendance was 32,772. This year, they're averaging under 29,000 fans. And you pointed this out. I had missed this, but Joe Buck was this on X?
Yes.
X, formerly Twitter. During, he capitalized. That's what, if we were George Gray, we'd have to shout that. During the game in STL last night. Wow, welcome back to the 70s. This is what it used to look like. I was there, pre-Whitey, buying shag carpet ASAP, a major rebuild of roster and trust better be coming. One can only hope. It's coming, right? Buena suerte, Heim, rooting for you, is reference to the new general manager in waiting. Is that what we would say, Heim Bloom?
The president of baseball operations.
There you go. There's his official title. So, Ethan, you've been at these games. Alex, you're still playing music at some of the games too, right?
Yeah, the attendance is pretty good when I'm there,
Oh, yeah. They're all up there on the third floor watching you, right?
100%. Yeah, I'm there quite often.
The female population just on those games just goes through the roof.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it
can
does.
imagine.
Yeah. Mhm.
But look, we've been talking about this for a while now, and we're all used to seeing fans pack the stands at Busch Stadium, even when teams that are of subpar, records come into town. But this is, again, it's kind of shocking. And things improved a little bit, Ethan, over the summer because the team was playing better. But the thing that really concerns, I think, most fans, and you can hear this in what Joe Buck alludes to when he says a major rebuild of roster and trust better be coming. That's what people were clamoring for last year when Mo was getting all the criticism. But man, this is not going to, I think we knew at the time it was going to take a while, but this may take longer than even people expect.
Unfortunately, the trust has been completely broken between the fans and this front office, and it is beyond saving. Fortunately, there is a huge change that is coming in the next couple of months, and I think that Cardinal fans will have a slight higher level of patience, but I'll tell you this much. It's going to be very important very quickly for Chaim Bloom and company to be very upfront and candid about where the organization is at and the direction that they're heading and how they're going to get back to being a winning ball club. Because here's the thing, 2026, it's likely going to be a repeat of 2025 as far as winning on-field results. They're not going to be a contending club in 2026. That's the reality. You take into consideration the amount of injuries they've had to their minor league pitching this year. You take into consideration that we're probably going to have a lockout in 2027. They're not going to spend on this team. There's still things to figure out. So all that to be considered in that they are not going to be a contender in 2026 likely. The upper management.
So best case scenario is 2028. Now we're fast forwarding to the next presidential race, right?
The upper management has to be open and honest about the direction that they are trying to get this going. Chaim Bloom has done this before. A lot of the very good prospects that are coming up to the majors right now for the Boston Red Sox, those were his guys.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Rays and how they were able to be so good with spending no money, that was Chaim Bloom's product. So he's done this before. They just have to be open and honest about how they're going to get there. St. Louis fans are smart enough. I think that they'll have a little more patience if it's communicated the right way.
I think that the patience would be there for sure if some of the prospects that we had been, told that were highly touted were meeting their expectation right now. Yeah. That's one of the issues, right? Because you, in theory, should have some guys on this team right now, even a former guy like Dylan Carlson, who should be, performing at elite levels, and they just never manifest. And Jordan Walker's still young, so there's still opportunities there. Victor Scott's another guy, but you have to have somebody that dazzles more than these guys have, and you need someone that can hit 25, 30 home runs, maybe a couple players like that.
Correct. And it really is a shame that John Mozeliak is going to be remembered probably at least in the next handful of years for how things kind of fell off the tracks, because when you look at the career as a whole as the general manager and Pobo for the Cardinals, there really is a lot of historic things that he did, and he'll end up someday being a Cardinal Hall of Famer. He most definitely will be. He won 2 world championships, multiple pennants. I mean, he will most definitely. But the reality is that the heartbeat of the St. Louis Cardinals is their ability to develop talent in-house. And unfortunately, that the quality of the player development went down significantly in these last 8 to 10 years,
and that
during
doesn't
his time.
Put seats in the stadium. If you're going back to that, like to the general public, I mean, I think a lot of baseball fans do get that for sure, that it takes time, but like also during this time, it's kind of like you got to give them some excitement on the field. As far as when you think back, we had Yachty, we had Pujols, we had Waino,
homegrown talent.
Yeah, but also when it faded off a little bit, the homegrown talent, I felt like more could have been done to bring in a big name that is like your big billboard player. I mean,
perhaps they brought in Arenado and Goldschmidt, and a lot of us didn't think that was even possible, and they pulled that off, and that was, in an effort to win another championship. Certainly,
the problem has not been that the Cardinals haven't been willing to spend. The problem is that the spending has been covering up the real issues, and that is that the player development system has gotten so bad. The Cardinals have spent. They prior to the last 2 years, they'd still been, in that middle tier range, despite being one of the smallest markets in baseball. The problem is that you can't solely compete if you're the Cardinals in this small of a market with the Los Angeles Dodgers, with the New York Yankees, because they're going to always outbid you. So you have to be able to have a healthy mix of being able to go and get that guy on the market, like they have with Arenado,
right now,
with like Goldschmidt, but also being able to develop that homegrown guy. The Cardinals have not been able to to develop that superstar. We thought it was going to be we thought it was going to be Jordan Walker at one point. We thought it was going to be Dylan Carlson, even to a certain extent. It's also hard when you're drafting as late as they do every single year, when you're constantly in the mix for the playoffs. But guess what? The Dodgers have a top 3 system in baseball, and how long have they been one of the best teams in baseball? So you have to find a way to be able to do it better than St. Louis has.
It's just sad because I think we all can recognize I remember this certainly from my days in Milwaukee, and it's a completely different franchise and organization right now, but they struggled for years and years and years. And, it took well into June to get anybody in the seats. And we've all looked at Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, some of these teams, even in the division, and you say, wow, that was like a couple thousand people are at those games. Look at the way that we pack the stands and the fans come out, and, it doesn't matter. Well, I mean, the bottom line is it does matter. And the quality of the team matters, but those numbers are, 29,000 average. That is staggering. Yeah. You're talking about not only reaching 3 million, which was the standard number for years, but barely reaching 2 million.
You hope that it's an eye opener for ownership, right? That the fans are making it known. This is the statement from the fans, and you have to give it to them because they the communication has been very poor the last couple of years. And there's been a lot of covering up of issues, it feels like, with all right, we'll go and we'll sign this guy, the mid-level guy that is presented to be a piece that is going to do a lot for the club and get them back into the playoff mix. The messaging has not been there, and the fans are smart enough to recognize that, and they're making that known with their wallets right now.
Yeah, and I think they're going to make it known for a while. I mean, I can't imagine that if we're in the same situation a year from now, when I say same situation, I mean, we're all in this studio talking about this. I don't think the numbers are going to be dramatically improved. Let me get a couple of things in here before the break and take this in another direction. One of these stories, well, I think both these stories are weird. You covered last week, and you guys heard this story about the dude that was infected by the brain-eating amoeba at the Lake of the Ozarks. Right. That's a weird story. So I guess that this is something that I can't even pronounce, called Naegleria fowleri. It's a microscopic amoeba that causes something that's bad that I can also not pronounce, a rare but nearly always fatal brain infection that is referred to as brain-eating disease. So the guy was hospitalized in the ICU before succumbing to the infection, and they think it happened when he was water skiing at the Lake of the Ozarks. So how'd
they narrow it down to that, though?
Well, because it's something that's present in warm fresh water. They say like lakes, rivers, and ponds. It thrives in a river and lake water that's 80 to 115 degrees. He had been at the Lake of the Ozarks. They say that this is so rare that fewer than 10 cases are reported in the U.S. each year. And since 1962, only 167 cases have been documented nationwide. I mean, that is minuscule. We've had 2 other cases in our state's history, one in 1987, another in 2022. And, I guess the only thing they said in this story is that you can take precautions if you're, in warm, fresh water, holding your nose or using clips, avoiding stirring sediment in warm, shallow water. Good luck with that. Not dunking your head in hot springs, and using distilled or boiled water for sinus rinses. That sounds like a lot of work that people would never know that they would even have this, because I guess it could even happen a couple weeks after you are infected. So you have that story. And then there's the, Fred, you saw the screwworm story, right?
Yeah.
This is bizarre too. Have you heard about this, Sue? A rare human case of a flesh-eating parasite known as New World screwworm has been confirmed in Maryland at a resident there. At the Trump administration is trying to prevent a resurgence of an insect largely eradicated from livestock decades ago. So this was something that was confirmed earlier this month, August 4th. It was a person who traveled to the U.S. from El Salvador. And Andrew Nixon, who is with the DHS, confirmed this. The resident has recovered without evidence of infecting other humans or animals. Apparently, this is something that is a little bit more common with animals. And there was an outbreak in Central America, and they were worried that it was going to be something that would devastate the cattle industry. But state and federal officials said that this case is not a cause for alarm, and that plans for new sterile fly production facility in South Texas, which I guess is something that's intended to tamp down the global threats from this pest and others, is underway. They say livestock not particularly at risk due to this case. Based on what has been shared with state animal health officials, we don't see any elevated risk to the livestock industry at this time. But that's all we need, right? You have all these weird diseases, the bird flu and everything else that affects the prices. By the way, beef prices, I don't know, I do the shopping. Chicken is really cheap right now. Does anybody notice that?
Is
Like
it?
if you buy
Wait.
chicken breast, yeah, I think it's really inexpensive.
Huh, that's interesting.
You find that
I just
different?
bought it last night, but I guess I didn't look before
But
to see a difference.
Try to buy just a pound of ground beef or some steaks or something
It's
like that,
expensive.
and it's really, really expensive.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, watch out for an accident southbound 55 approaching Bates. Now, this is in the construction zone, so they've actually moved it, and that means only the two right lanes are open. They've moved it into a closed lane, but there is a little bit of a slowdown through there. Now, there was also an accident eastbound 6440 past McKnight. That one was on the left shoulder and in the left lane, so that has been cleared, but we're still seeing some volume through there. Eastbound 70 is jammed just past Hanley, the right lane down for road work. Westbound 6440 is jammed. Kings Highway out through McCausland. Moderate volume through Chesterfield Valley and picking up Highway N out through the 70 split. Now, eastbound 70 is slow right there at the inner belt, but it's westbound that has some volume past the airport. And watch out for a jam. We've got an accident eastbound 270 just past Riverview and slow-moving traffic behind that. This report is brought to you by, Missouri Brush Control. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
97.1 FM Talk is proud to support the Make Missouri Pro-Life Again banquet. Mark Cox here. Join me Monday, September 8th at the St. Charles Convention Center with special guest speaker Laura Trump. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
Enjoy your land the way you've always dreamed of. Learn more at MissouriBrushControl.com. Missouri Brush Control is helping landowners reclaim their property, manage vegetation, and clear land for better views. Enjoy your land the way you've always dreamed of. Missouri Brush Control, making acreage great again. Visit MissouriBrushControl.com.
Are you nearing retirement and you're starting to think to yourself, okay, do we have enough saved? Because that is a real thing, and you cannot just wing it in retirement. This is the rest of your life. This is why it's just so smart to learn more about how the system works. And this is why I like financial and tax architects. They are just the best. And what they do is teach you a little bit about how things work. They do a class called Retirement Planning 101, and they hold these at colleges throughout St. Louis and Illinois. And you learn how to avoid costly mistakes, how to maximize your income, how to reduce taxes in retirement. These are things you have to know if you are going to make your money last for the entire time. So register. That's what they ask. At 314-888-5101, 314-888-5101. Go to a class, meet them, learn some things, and then decide what to do with your retirement.
Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort, offering small ship experiences with a shore excursion included in every port and programs designed for cultural enrichment. Discover more at Viking.com. That's Viking.com.
Bold conversations, no apologies. The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, Brad Young coming up after the top of the hour, 97.1 FM Talk legal analyst. We've got a bunch to talk about with him, the very latest on the devastating, tragic shooting in Minneapolis as well. We'll have in the next hour, Phil Holloway will weigh in on some of that as well. Plus, I'll have audio cut of the day. You know, I send Fred these articles and I say, I want to do this on a given day. And then there's a lot of them that slip by. Alex Rich is here, by the way, that visits with us on a Wednesday. And I sent this to you, Fred, a couple of weeks ago. I've been wanting to do this story about Oreos with Reese's because I found it so interesting. I love my Oreos. I do like the white Oreos. What are those called? The gold,
those are
Oreos.
good.
Yeah, I think those are good too. But so the headline of this story from the 8th of August was Oreos combined with Reese's inside the Manhattan Project of snacks, because they even say that the combination of two of America's favorite treats sounded simple. It was not. And Jesse Newman, who's the reporter here, basically tells the story this way. Senior employees from the sweets and snacks giant Mondelez, I think it's how you pronounce it. That's the company that owns Oreo. They slipped into a conference room at the Pennsylvania headquarters of arch rival Hershey on a spring day 3 years ago. They were there to discuss a merger. The tie-up on the table wasn't a typical corporate combination. Hershey makes Reese's peanut butter cups. Mondelez makes Oreo cookies. It was time the companies decided to unite them. Hershey would infuse Oreos into its nutty confection. Mondelez would fill Oreos with Reese's peanut butter.
You're right.
Finally
It seems
satisfying.
simple.
Right, it
Sounds
does.
great.
But that's what they say. They said, in theory, the idea behind the products was simple. In practice, merging two of America's most iconic snacks while maintaining, this is the important part here, their individual identities was a deeply complex undertaking.
Oh, come on.
Requiring cloak and dagger tactics reminiscent of the Manhattan Project. Executives and food scientists met in secret. They spoke in code, keeping knowledge of the effort to a tight circle to prevent leaks.
Wait,
so
how is it hard to mix
I
up
agree.
little Oreos and put them in a Reese's peanut
I don't
butter
think they
cup?
wanted to share the recipes.
Yeah, that was part of it, right? So they talked about
Oh,
how
I see what you're saying,
they
Fred.
did this before, and I guess Mondelez had this limited edition Oreo cookie with Reese's peanut butter filling. This is going back to 2014.
Sounds unbelievable.
And I guess people liked it, and they demanded it. So there were things that had occurred on social media, like hacks, they call them, or mashups have circulated where they show people, munching on a Reese's cup sandwich between Oreo wafers, and then the peanut butter is there as well. But it wasn't until April of 2022 where they first started gathering and talking about this. The task, according to the company that owned Oreo, was creating a double stuffed Oreo that looked and tasted like the 113-year-old classic while working in Reese's peanut butter into the mix. Hershey's mission was to incorporate Oreo's signature Cocoa Cookie Crunch and vanilla cream into its tried and true peanut butter cups. But Fred's right. The challenge was no one would be sharing any recipes. So these blueprints for both the Oreos and the peanut butter cups are closely guarded secrets. Neither company wanted to provide details about, their product to a number one competitor. So they had to figure out a way to get their offerings to taste like the others without even knowing the formulas.
Well,
and so the way this started was the lawyers got involved. They had to draw up NDAs and intellectual property agreements, all this stuff. They ultimately included language about how Oreo would be used in the final Reese's product. And they called it Project Snoopy, which was an homage to the Peanuts character. And Hershey, actually, they had two different names because Mondelez, which was the Oreo company, they called it Project Snoopy. Hershey called it Project Power Play. And I guess you're talking about only a dozen people at each company was even involved in any of this. Now, I'd have to get to the end here because they tried a bunch of different things. One thing they did was they wanted to put the peanut butter cup with the Oreo crumbles, and I guess they sell something like Oreo base cakes, which are individual wafers that other food companies, I didn't know this, but they have these base cakes and you can use them. Other food companies can use them as an ingredient. But the problem here was the standard peanut butter cup is gluten-free. And I guess that's a big deal for some people. Gluten, however, here's the problem, helps bind cookies together. And without it, the machinery, which is used for pretzels and nuts at Hershey, was just pulverizing the base cakes into dust. And they turned the Reese's filling into gray, and they didn't deliver a recognizable crunch. So I can't remember. I read this story a couple of weeks ago, and I don't remember if they had a final answer here where this stuff is finally coming to the to the stores. I think they did get a victory. There were testing that was done. It was kept top secret. Let me see here.
Seems like they should just kind of encase a Oreo cookie inside the Reese's peanut butter cup and just call it a day, right?
Yep. And they all knew going in they didn't want to give up their formulas. So they knew this was going to be a nightmare.
I don't know if they knew it was going to be as tough, but yeah, they say that the results of what they refer to here in the Wall Street Journal as snack diplomacy will hit supermarket shelves here very, very soon. And they're hoping that it's going to be especially appealing to younger consumers who enjoy the brand collaborations and favor foods with multiple textures and more complex
I don't
flavors.
see why the young people would find that
I
any
think
more
everybody's
interesting
gonna-
than the
I
old
think it's going to
people.
break the internet.
Yeah.
I love both of them, but it is interesting because they had to get into a situation where I guess vanilla was a particular issue because it's just like, if you ever look at paint colors. You know how many different shades
Oh,
of
gosh,
white there
it's
are? There's like a million.
outrageous.
So apparently there's a lot of different vanillas out there as well. And that got tricky because they were trying to match things up where it would go in the right direction and it would taste good, it would look good without spilling the proprietary details of the product. So it was a lot of hit and miss, a lot of trial and error, longer than most products. But I guess they tried 35 different versions of the cup. They put them through 4 rounds of consumer testing before everyone was satisfied. It should hit the stores very soon. I'm very excited about it. Alex, great to see you. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
There had been an accident on eastbound 270 approaching the Chain of Rocks Bridge, and they had a lane blocked, and we had a jam that went back close to 367. Looks to me like they must have gotten that cleared. Both lanes are now open, and hopefully that jam will unwind. We've got eastbound 70 jammed in the area of Hanley because of road work in the right lane. Southbound 170 slow as you approach Forest Park Parkway down through 40. Southbound 270, slow pockets from Page down through Doherty Ferry. And westbound 40 is really jammed. This is approaching Kings Highway. Heaviest through Hampton, but then it opens up a bit. And now that accident on southbound 55 near Bates on the left side has created a jam on 55. Out west, moderate volume 64 and 70 headed for their split. We're looking good on the bridges downtown, but 64 eastbound slow, 157 through 159. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
My friend Shannon has texted me to say that Deerberg's in Des Peres currently has the Reese's Oreos. So they may be out on the shelves. Keep an eye open for them. That seems like something we should task Jane with for Friday. So we'll keep our eyes and our ears peeled. We'll see if we can get them in here this weekend.
This report is sponsored by McKelvey Homes.
Hi, I'm Jim Brennan of McKelvey Homes. Have you always wished for a brand new home in an established neighborhood? Select one of our move-in ready custom homes throughout St. Louis, or we will build on your lot. Visit McKelveyhomes.com and move up to McKelvey.
Attention! Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-334-1155. 800-334-1155. Again, that's 800-334-1155.
It's summertime, and that heat can play havoc on your plants and trees in your yard. Mark Cox here from my friends at Hanson's Tree Service. Give them a call. They will send a certified arborist to your yard to set up a plant healthcare strategy. They can help you with trees that might have a bug problem or a disease. Plus, they can deliver mulch directly to your driveway in most cases. Just go online to hansonstree.com or call them at 636-379-1830.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago Senator Dick Durbin. And now Dick Durbin has a new scheme, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, consumers have thousands of choices in credit cards, all with equal, strong security. But Durbin's plan is less competition and less security. And that means more risk for your credit and your identity. Tell Republicans in Congress, stop Dick Durbin's takeover of your credit card before it's too late.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
Oh, crap. I think Ethan told me I was supposed to talk for a few minutes, so I forgot
Air
about
Comfort
that part.
Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Still super duper weather in place for evening plans. Our temperatures falling through the 70s, partly cloudy skies. 60 should do it for the low. This pattern is not breaking at all. On Thursday, partly sunny skies. We're going to keep a chance of a spot shower. Really tough to find. 84 for the high. That's probably the warmest day of the next several days. Thursday night clear and 61. Friday sunny 82. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
That the shooter had time to be released on YouTube. This manifesto appeared to show him at the scene and included some disturbing writings.
O'Hara said the 3 guns the shooter used were legally purchased recently and that more firearms were being recovered at other homes they are searching. While O'Hara would not confirm this, court documents revealed Westman changed names from Robert to Robin in 2019.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. FBI Director Kash Patel said on X that the shooting is being investigated as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. President Trump has ordered flags at the White House and all federal buildings and military posts flown at half-staff through Sunday in honor of the victims. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says using federal resources in the district has helped cut down on violent crime.
For carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C.
But she says there are some concerns, saying that there what she called a break in trust between police and the community by having masked ICE agents and members of the National Guard from other states. President Trump signed an executive order earlier this month federalizing D.C.'s police department and calling up hundreds of National Guard soldiers to combat what he calls out-of-control crime. America is listening to Fox News.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed. From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, it's Wednesday. We have a couple more days till the weekend, but we'll take you into the holiday weekend on Friday with a roundtable. Jane Duker will be here. State Rep. I can't even talk. State Rep Steve Butts and political consultant on my side of the table, David Barklage, will be here all on Friday afternoon. Brad Young is with us tonight. You often hear him filling in for me on 97.1 FM Talk. He's with us to weigh in on several issues. Hello, Brad. How are you this afternoon?
Mark, doing great, sir. Thank you.
Let's kind of start with this creepy situation and tragedy in Minneapolis, because have you taken a look at any of this manifesto or seen the video from this dude?
I've not seen the video, but I have seen, read rather, some of the manifesto, and there's pictures of him writing like "Kill Donald Trump" on his ammo clips, and this, and I'll refer to him as a him. But he obviously has lots of issues here, and it's unfortunate that he has taken out his issues on poor, innocent, not just poor, innocent children, but children who are in a Catholic school. They're there to learn values. They're there to learn morality. They're there to learn how to live a righteous life. And this guy wades in and kills them. It's awful.
Some of it's just bizarre too, because at one point in the manifesto, and again, I don't like giving too much attention to this stuff, but I just want to kind of draw some, juxtaposition, if you will. He says, I think I'm dying of cancer. It's a tragic end as its entirety is self-inflicted. I did this to myself as I cannot control myself. I've been destroying my body through vaping and other means. I think I have lung cancer. Now, there doesn't seem to be any indication that this guy had lung cancer at all. But he goes on to say, I don't want to throw my life away by rotting in a hospital bed. I don't want the rest of my life to be as a cancer patient. And then it says, F that. I want to go out on my own means. Unfortunately, due to my depression, anger, and twisted mind, apparently self-aware, I want to fulfill a final act that has been in the back of my head for years. And, that's the shooting. But then he goes on to say, you are all what kept me going. I find no more interest in anything material. I only have an interest in my mission and my love for my family. He goes on to say, nice things about his family. And then even closes out saying, I love you, Dad, Mom, Jack, Martha, Teresa, Joel, Jared, Phil, Liam, signs it. And interestingly enough, says P.S. T, who I think is maybe Teresa in the family, get over yourself and make up with Mom. She loves you. You need to grow up and accept that time just keeps on blanking moving. So it's a weird manifesto. And then there's the audio. The audio is even weirder than that. Check this out. I mean, there's weird breathing. There is talking underneath his breath, and it is just bizarre. And people are going to dissect that over and over and over again. I always think that, though, Brad, that it's a better situation when they do take their own life. And in this case, they did. We don't want to give more attention and have this thing drag on in the courts for years and years and years. But again, the other common bond here with some of the other school shootings as of late is it appears as is if Robert, who became Robin, is a trans shooter as well.
Well, here's my initial thought on that. I don't hold the entire trans community responsible for what this man/woman did. All right. But if you put a white heterosexual male in that shooter's position, then the media wants to cast aspersion on all white heterosexual males.
That's right.
And so that's the double standard to me that jumps off the page. There's not going to be any attempt, nor should there be, to say all trans people are potential massacred and shooters. That would be absurd, but it's equally absurd to disparage all white male heterosexuals in the same breath whenever white male heterosexuals do commit these awful acts.
But the common bond, I agree with that for the most part. What I would say, though, is in the situation with some of these trans cases is the mental illness is so perverse. And, if you go back and you think about what Jamie Reed was talking about in her whistleblower report here a few years ago about Washington Children's Hospital, one of the things that concerned her greatly and sent her on this mission to get rid of this so-called gender affirming care and make sure that this child abuse stopped was the degree at which some of these kids were mentally ill. I mean, it was severe. And we're talking about young kids, right? There was the one kid who, this kind of stands out just because it's disgusting and it was, pretty crazy at the time. But there was one kid who was either fantasizing or thinking that they were having sex with a dog. And that somehow turned into, oh yeah, you're just trans, you need some gender affirming care. When Jamie's opinion was, and I think now we know this from around the planet, that many of these kids, maybe they were gay, maybe they were confused, but maybe they were severely, severely mentally ill. And I think we find that in situations like this. There's no doubt in this case, this person was warped.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And from a liability standpoint, my only concern here is that the family members of these children who were just tragically murdered and the others who were injured, if they attempt to now sue the Catholic school for saying they didn't have sufficient security or whatever, I mean, that's a possible lawsuit that could come out of this. But really, it's the result of the person who did it. And you mentioned a moment ago, he or she committed suicide, turned the gun on himself after this event. And I know this sounds cold, but I wish he would do that before he kills or hurts others.
Well, and
start with that.
That's the thing about the manifesto. If you read it, it talks about removing himself from the planet. Fine, go for it, dude. Do whatever you think you have to do. You want to go out on your own means. Why does it have to involve killing young children? And I think, it's hard in this situation to say we're lucky because 2 kids died and their classmates had to see them die, and some of their classmates are in the hospital. But for a guy that decided to do this and to start shooting from the outside of the church into the stained glass windows instead of going inside, and I don't know what would have prevented that. This could have been, when I first started hearing about this morning, it sounded like we were going to have dozens dead.
Yes.
And
yes.
Again, it's not a good situation. I can't even imagine, I have some audio that I'll play a little later for Audio Cut of the Day. A 10-year-old kid who's in 5th grade. My daughter's in 5th grade, describing quite calmly, actually, what happened. But this is going to be something that these kids have to live with for the rest of their lives.
Unfortunately, that's true. And there's going to be far more kids injured than what has been reported because they're going to be having emotional issues, psychological issues, relational issues, issues that could last a lifetime. Far beyond the current news cycle's coverage of the story.
It's unfortunate. Brad Young is with us. He is our 97.1 FM Talk Chief Legal Analyst, a partner with Harris, Dowell, Fisher, and Young. Very curious about your position. We have not talked about the burning of the American flag. I have always been one to defend that as a constitutional free speech issue. The president's executive order thinks otherwise. I think it's reprehensible and despicable what happens when people burn the flag. But your thoughts about this executive order and whether or not it's nuanced a little bit when it comes to, really the issue of inciting a riot or something along those lines.
Right. And I'll pick up on that in a second. My initial take isn't all that different from yours. When I was in law school, I was of the opinion that burning the flag should be illegal. And then while I was actually in law school, the Supreme Court decided the issue of Texas versus Johnson in 1989, stating that it was symbolic speech. And I got it. I understood it. I didn't like it. Burning the American flag is awful, reprehensible. Put all the adjectives in there that you will. But is it legal? And I have a hard time prosecuting someone for the content of their speech. And here's what's interesting. I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds here, Mark, but after that was invalidated, Texas versus Johnson invalidated 48 state laws that prohibited the burning of the flag. So then the very next year, Congress passed a law in 1990, passed a law that said you can't burn the American flag. That went up to the Supreme Court in 1990 in U.S. versus Eichmann, I believe, and the Supreme Court invalidated that. So when you look at the headwinds against Trump's position here, the Supreme Court has said states can't prohibit the burning of the flag. Congress cannot prohibit the burning of the flag. So why on earth would anyone think that the Supreme Court would be okay with the executive branch prohibiting the burning of the flag? This is destined to be stricken.
Yeah, and that's what I think too. But again, it's another one of those issues that if you polled on it, it's probably 80-20, right?
Oh, sure. And I would be in the 80s saying this no one should be allowed to prosecute the flag. But listen, the First Amendment is a two-edged sword. And if we want freedom of speech, then we have to deal with the detriments of freedom of speech. And this is simply a great example or a bad example of how speech can go wrong, but it's still protected speech.
So there was an interesting development. I saw this from some of the peeps that I still follow on Twitter from my days in Milwaukee, and Judge Hannah Dugan, who was an elected judge on the Milwaukee County Circuit Court. This became well documented earlier this year when she helped slide an illegal migrant out of the back door of her courtroom. And there was a development in that case today, wasn't there?
There was, and the development was this. Judge Dugan had essentially filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that she had judicial immunity. And this doesn't even pass the straight face test. But here's her argument, right? I'm glad I'm not her lawyer. Here's the argument. She said that it is within the judicial responsibility of the judge to control how people come and go from my courtroom. So when I directed the illegal immigrant out of the courtroom, that fell within my judicial duties. And the federal court struck that down like in a blink of a second, stating, no, that's not within your duties. You actually hid someone and shielded them from prosecution by ICE. That violates federal law. You're going to trial. So that happened. This is going to go to trial. I don't see this being resolved. I don't see her pleading guilty to anything. It's going to go to trial.
Really? So you think it's going to go all the way to trial?
I do, because she's frankly pretty close to retirement age anyway. And I think she wants to be a martyr. And to be a martyr, she's going to take this to trial. Now, the consequences are enormous. She would, if convicted, she's immediately off the bench. She would immediately lose her bar license. So she can't practice law, can't be a judge. But when you look at who this is and the background of her personality, I think she wants to be a martyr, take one for the progressive left team, and go down in flames, trying to argue that it's okay to shield people from being deported because of her beliefs about deportation.
Well, and then something to like, if you had Tony Evers, the Democrat governor of Wisconsin, could probably, if she does get found guilty, turn that over.
No, not at all. This is federal
it's a
law.
federal case. Oh, that's right. So that would have to come from
law.
the president. That's interesting.
I don't see the current president giving her a pardon on that.
No, but this is a fascinating case. I mean, you have this guy, and there's even video of him kind of, sliding out of the courthouse through this non-public exit. I remember at the time thinking that basis that she tried to get this case thrown out for was something that could have significantly, been, and maybe that's an argument that works eventually in trial, that she does have the right to do something like that, and that there was a little bit of nuance to that aspect of the charge. But this Judge Lynn Edelman, who, by the way, was an attorney when I was in Milwaukee 20 years ago, said, no, we're not going for that.
Well, here, let me give a ridiculous example to show what this is comparable to. To me, this is no different than if she lit the chairs in the jury box on fire, lit them on fire, and then claimed, well, I have the authority as a judge to control the temperature in my courtroom, so I was setting the chairs on fire just to alter the temperature. Okay, that's ridiculous. But this also is equally ridiculous when you're shielding a person from prosecution. You're the judge, for goodness sakes. You're shielding them from arrest, and that is not part of your job duties as a judge.
I love that case, though. I want to see her found guilty so badly and see what happens with all that. But that's still something that, because these cases take a while, that's going to, not happen this year, is I would assume, or is it something?
It'll be next year. Absolutely. It'll be next year.
All right, Brad Young, you going to the zoo tomorrow night for the home opener or not?
I tried to get tickets, right before they sold out, and I just couldn't get them. But I am going to the Cardinals game tonight because I'm excited to see the Cardinals lose again. So I'll be at the game tonight.
Sue and I are choosing to go, and I just kind of called an audible a week ago. I really, really have wanted to see. I've never seen Diana Ross, and she's playing the Muni tomorrow with John Baptiste.
Yes.
So I'm going to the concert. I'm going to miss the game. At least I'll miss most of the game. I think it's a 6:30 game. But it's interesting because at first it looked like, we weren't going to know exactly who was going to be the starting quarterback until after this game. And we may still not know that. But he says he's going to do a half by half. So in other words, we'll have to see if this changes at all based on the score of the game. But Prebula, who's the kid from Penn State that transferred, is going to be the first half starting quarterback, and Sam Horn is going to play in the second half. And look, I'm surprised because the reports that I have from my peeps in Columbia say this is a very, very close, competition. Sam Horn was just written about in the Washington Post because he has a contract with the LA Dodgers to be a pitcher as well. So we'll have to see how, this affects him in the spring after if he's the starting quarterback this year. But it's interesting because you don't see this very often. Usually you have one guy, they're going with it, but they're going to split the difference tomorrow night and see what happens. And hopefully, these early games, not that they're going to lose to Central Arkansas, but they always make me so nervous because this should, in theory, with a good team, be a game that's like a 30 point. I don't know what the line is. Do you know what the line is here?
I don't, but you're right. It should be a blowout in the first half. And it may or may not be. But to me, I think all eyes are going to be on, my eyes will be on how these quarterbacks do, because that's going to tell us what happens in the future of Mizzou football.
Central Arkansas is an FCS opponent, so they will not have lines apparently on that particular game. So there you go. That might be a little different because of who Central Arkansas is. Brad, have fun at the game tonight. I hope they get a victory.
I will. I'll be there.
Oh, he cut out. You cut out there at the end. You said what?
I'll be there with 7,000 of my closest friends.
Okay, I'm glad you got that in. There you go.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Accident reported southbound Lindbergh at 270. Watch for that blocking the left lanes. Traffic starting to stack up there. And there was an accident westbound 6440, really near Ballas, and that one they've moved off to the shoulder. But if you're westbound on 40, it's slow pockets that go back through Kings Highway. Southbound 170 slowing just south of Olive down through 40 eastbound. And eastbound traffic on 64 is slow at Clarkson and at Big Bend. We've got southbound 55 jammed headed toward Bates. Illinois side, eastbound 64 busy between 157 and 159. Eastbound 70 is slow just past the airport. The problem is road work in the right lane past Hanley, and westbound has some moderate volume past the airport and out at Highway A. This report brought to you by Infinite Vitality. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Tired of aging skin? Infinite Vitality reverses collagen loss, tightens with Morpheus and microneedling, and fades age spots. Look naturally younger, not plastic. Visit infinite-vitality.com. Mention Annie for a $50 credit.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They're in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Mark Reardon, Sue Thomas. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
I think it was last Thursday, if I remember correctly, although, Sue, I never remember things correctly, but it was either Wednesday or Thursday, we had Olivia Reingold on from the Free Press. And Olivia, who I love, she's a great reporter at the FP.com. The FP, of course, is Barry Weiss from the New York Times many years ago, who broke off with the gray lady and said, look, what you guys are doing here is not journalism. I'm going to try something a little different and be honest with my readers. She's brought over a great group of reporters, Abigail Schreier, who is, in fact, her partner, who has written some amazing stuff for the Free Press, and also Olivia, who has been a guest many times on the show. So if you remember, the headline of her story was, they became symbols for Gazan starvation, but all 12 suffer from other health problems. So what happened was here is the New York Times did this story, and in their story, and this should not be any surprise to people who follow the New York Times or the legacy media, they had a picture of an 18-month-old boy in Gaza on the front page. And it turned out that that young boy, who was a symbol for a story in the Times about widespread hunger in Gaza, was not simply suffering from malnutrition, but he had pre-existing health issues that affected his brain, his muscle development. So then there was an updated version of the story because critics started calling this out. But of course, the story was already printed in the newspaper for those people who get the print edition, and there was no way to correct it that way. So what Olivia reported was, when the so-called paper of record updated its story with an editor's note 4 days later, it also quietly deleted the mother's claim that her son was born a healthy child. There was still no mention of the boy's brother, because in that same picture, the boy's brother is perfectly healthy in the background. Actually, it was a different picture, but it was the same set of pictures, and it appeared online. So everything was a little questionable, and that wasn't the only thing that happened. So the Free Press and Olivia goes off and they do an investigation. And the way that she told the story, and she got very emotional because, as I'll tell you in a minute, things did not go well for her with even some friends or some colleagues. So what they discovered was there were at least a dozen other viral images of starvation in Gaza that lacked context. You had people who had significant health problems, and you also had some of the most prestigious news outlets in the entire country, including CNN, NPR, the Washington Post, New York Times, that ran with these things with the narrative of, it's the U.S., it's our fault, it's the Israelis' fault that you have these kids that are starving in Gaza. But none of the complications of the medical histories that help explain what they look like. So this starts getting called out. Olivia Reingold does a story about this. It's a great story. She probably doesn't even get anywhere near the attention that she deserves. And then when she did the interview with me a week ago, she almost cried on the air because what she said was there was a dear friend of hers, and I think a lot of us can relate with this because we've lost friends or, been distant with friends or family members because of Trump. I know I can say that I'm in that category with a couple of longtime friends that I've been friends with for decades. And Olivia said, during the interview with me, I'm going to get emotional here because someone who she was very close with took issue with the fact, now think about this and think through this, and I'm going to tell you what the follow-up is, that she factually was reporting on a fact error that the New York Times made and that they had to correct and that they did correct. And they went on their Twitter account. Of course, it wasn't the main New York Times Twitter account, but they did the editor's note there as well. So fast forward to today, when they have and actually, I think it was a couple of days ago when they wrote this, but they had an update to this. And they said last week, the Free Press ran an investigation into a dozen viral photos published by major international media outlets aimed at depicting starvation in Gaza. All 12 pictures featured distressed Gazans, mostly children. All were skin and bones, and all of them suffered from pre-existing conditions like cerebral palsy or something like that. Crucially, that last piece of information was absent from the captions or the news stories that they accompanied. In leaving out that context, the outlets presented an incomplete story. This is what I describe as, on a regular basis, journalistic malpractice. And one of the ways that journalistic malpractice occurs is in omission. The editors don't want to put something that's very important to the story in there because it blows up their whole narrative. And that's what happened here, right? So rather than typifying the situation in Gaza, these are actually the exceptions, not the rule. But man, I'll tell you what, they were attacked for this. And what Barry and the editors at the Free Press had to write was, we're proud of the report and the reporters who tracked it down. In doing so, Olivia Reingold and Tanya Lukianova, who was the co-author and the co-reporter here, performed a public service by asking and answering a simple question. In a moment of widespread charges by international institutions and news outlets about hunger in Gaza, are these photographs representative? I'll just use a different word. Are they real? More, how is it that journalists failed to scrutinize information coming out of a war zone with an active terrorist group conducting kinetic and information warfare? See, that's a very good question as well, because they love to focus on any information that Hamas puts out. But if Israel and Bibi says something, or if the U.S. says something, it gets, dissected, and there's a microscope that goes, and that's fine. By the way, I think journalists should do their job and not accept the word of any country. The problem is the reverse happens. They accept the word of the terrorist organization, and they don't accept the word of Israel or the United States. So what Barry and the editors said in this piece, in the editorial, said journalistic outlets love to boast about impact, and this story has had more than its share. CNN updated its piece after our reporting, noting at the top of the story that it had been updated to reflect new information regarding the condition of some of the subjects. So did the Washington Post, issuing a correction to say that it had incorrectly used a year-old photo in its current coverage of mass starvation in Gaza. The Guardian issued no correction, but added one important detail to its coverage that previously featured a child that had cerebral palsy. So this is where it gets interesting. In a normal time, this is the kind of work that would be praised by our peers for getting to the truth of the matter. I mean, think about everything that I just described to you. You had prestigious news organizations, some of the best known on the planet, that were doing the story about starving kids and how they're being starved out by the U.S. and the Israeli, and how bad Americans are and how Jewish people are. But then when an organization goes to point out, hey, you guys use photos that are fake or that are a year old, or with kids that have brothers that are perfectly healthy because they're eating, but the other brother has cerebral palsy and looks terrible. Hey, that's not factually accurate. That is journalistic malpractice. But this is crazy because as they write, they say in normal time, this is time, the type of topic that would be praised, but we don't live in normal times. And this is not how some of our colleagues in the news media saw things. And this is unbelievable to me. To Crystal Ball, the host of Breaking Points, I think that's a podcast, our journalism was, quote, just so disgusting. There was a co-host that compared Olivia Reingold and the other reporter to Holocaust deniers, saying that a key tenet of Holocaust denial is trying to claim that many of the initial victims or purported victims had other precondition, and that's part of the reason why they died. Now, the editors at the Free Press said those who care about the truth will note that these children were not presented as the initial victims of anything. They were deceptively promoted to reflect the average Gazan, and to suggest otherwise betrays a fleeting relationship with reality. Glenn Greenwald, who is the self-proclaimed free speech absolutist, used to be at the Washington Post. I don't think he's there anymore, but he didn't only argue, and this is surprising because Glenn has actually called out some things related to COVID and other stories that have been, I think, helpful, but didn't only call for censorship, but for a trial at The Hague for the Free Press. Ben Rhodes, who is the former deputy national security advisor for Barack Obama, says that the reporting at the Free Press is sociopathic. I feel terrible for Olivia because she got emotional when she was on the show last week. There was a guy who is named Ryan Grimm, who's the co-founder of a site called Drop Site News, that predicted that Olivia's name will become notorious for a generation because of accurate reporting. And what they said is, we're confident that our reporters' names will be known, but not for the reasons Grimm and his ilk suggest. They will be remembered for sober, meticulous work in the face of journalists who oppose actual journalism. And here's the real important part of this. There's one important aspect about all the uproar. No one is disputing the facts in the Free Press. Nobody. They actually have the facts. There's been corrections from the Washington Post, from the New York Times, right? They haven't taken issue with the facts. They take issue with curiosity that points in the wrong political direction. And as they said, in this story, like in all their reporting, it doesn't deny that there's a hunger in Gaza. They cite, the most recent data from the World Health Organization. But the other thing that's interesting is the data from 2 years ago, when it came to the number of kids that died from malnutrition, was almost exactly the same 3 years ago, before the conflict even started. So look, this is crazy stuff. It really is. And they even point out, and I'm going to take it back to 2014. They're going to say 2020. They said, we've seen this movie before. In 2020, when the activist class declared there was a pandemic of police gunning down unarmed black men, anyone who pointed to stats showing otherwise was branded a racist, right? Or during COVID, when reporters and politicians who questioned the wisdom of keeping schools closed were accused of trying to abet mass death of teachers. Or more recently, very timely, when the question of transgender youth medicine was questioned as settled science until it wasn't. So their point is simple. Shouting down inconvenient facts does not resolve a debate. That is craziness. And for journalists, so-called journalists, to shout down people who are doing actual journalism is just Hall of Fame level journalistic malpractice.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got road work on eastbound 70 near Hanley. They've got the right lane down, and that's caused a delay back almost to the airport. Westbound 70, a little moderate volume in there, and also at Highway A. Now, 64 westbound, still a slow go, and this is Kings Highway out through McCausland, but then a slow pocket or two, Lindbergh out through 270 and through Chesterfield Valley and at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Eastbound a little slow there too at Clarkson, and then from Lindbergh through Big Bend. We've got southbound 55 slowing at Bates and southbound 270. It's just moderate volume, but it stretches from Page down past Doherty Ferry. On the Illinois side, first of all, we look fine on the bridges downtown. But 64 eastbound is slow as you approach 159. This report is brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They are simply the finest when it comes to mirror glass and shower doors. You can't find better quality, prices, or service than at Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have all the basics all the way up to the elite. Barron Mirror Glass and Door can't be beat. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
If you've already downloaded the Underdog Fantasy app, you can go up there right now and you can see some of the champions picks that you can make in Major League Baseball, in the WNBA, and the U.S. Open, all kinds of sports. But football is back, and you can have a lot of fun with football on Underdog. It's the best place to select entries and win money all season long. You can play in Missouri, and all you have to do, it's very simple. You go to the Chiefs game next week. If you know the Chiefs, you can pick the Bears. You can pick any team. You can pick some football games and some baseball games, so you can mix and match across sports. But focusing on football for a moment, how many touchdowns will Pat Mahomes have? How many receptions will Travis Kelce have? You just pick on a stat line whether a player will go higher or lower. You can play with as little as $1. You can win up to 5,000 times your cash on Underdog. But you have to get started by downloading the app. Sign up with the promo code MARKR, MARKR. That scores you $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. Again, the promo code is MARKR. Millions of fans have won billions making plays on Underdog. The only question is, will you be next? Underdog. Make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
When my wife and I got married after both graduating law school, we didn't have two nickels to rub together. Ultima had to give me her gas card just to drive home. We never could have imagined that one day we would have the largest injury firm in the world and $25 billion in money collected and counting. As good Catholics, we had 4 children fast. They all work in the firm today. Our family protecting yours. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, but our greatest gift was years away, grandchildren. Today we have 6 and counting. It's the greatest joy that we have ever experienced. I think about them all day long. Our family promises to protect your family should you need us. Call us. It's easy. Visit forthepeople.com and make sure you hug your grandchildren. God's final gift to us. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Men, need a clinic that accepts all insurance, including Medicare? U.S. Men's Medical Center in St. Peters does. U.S. Men's helps men experiencing loss of energy, focus, concentration, and low libido. And they accept all insurance, even Medicare, for testosterone replacement therapy. Patients love the staff and the fact that, yes, I'm going to say it again, they accept all insurance, including Medicare. Feel better? Call U.S. Men's Medical Center at 636-244-5333.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
From Collinsville to Chesterfield, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Audio cut of the day coming up here in just a couple of minutes on 97.1 FM Talk. Right now, we are joined by our friend Phil Holloway, Fox News contributor, former assistant DA, and former police officer. Also, I see a pretty cool collaboration, Phil Holloway, that you're doing with Megyn Kelly, which on true crime issues, which is fascinating. Let's start talking about that. How are you this afternoon?
Oh, I'm great. I was glad to be with you. Yeah, this is MK True Crime. It's Megyn has this media, MK Media, right? And she started various new shows that have been launching over the last several months, and this is the latest effort, and it's reaching out into the true crime space, and I'm very honored to be a co-host and contributor, and we're looking for great things as we continue to grow.
I have an amazing story that I could pitch to you at some point. My listeners know this story. It really would be a great topic, and it's been covered on an episode of 48 Hours, and there's some other interests from some national sources right now. And I don't think I've ever shared this story with you, and I'll put it in sort of synopsis form because you'll find this interesting from a variety of perspectives. So in 2016, I was getting a phone call. I used to take a lot more calls on my show when I was over on KMOX, and we were talking about the election. That was Trump's first year running for president, and I had a guy who would call the show. His name was Chris, and my producer at the time, Dave Klein, just kind of gave him, because Chris was calling from Farmersville, Illinois, which is about an hour north of here, and he was all worked up about Trump, and he was a big Trump fan, and he started being a regular caller. So Dave gave him the moniker, Phil, of Chris in the country. And a month before the election, we're talking about things, and I say, he keeps telling me Trump's going to win. I say, Chris, stop it. He's not going to win, because I, as the smart, the ever so smart talk show host, did not see an electoral path for Trump to win. So I bet him on the air. I said, Chris, if Trump wins, you can come in here and you can shave my head. All right. So the day after the election, he's my first caller, and he says, bro, you don't have to shave your head. And I say, Chris, how about if I take you to a Cardinals game? And I totally weasel out of it, right? I totally weasel out of it. And people to this day hold that against me. And you know what? They should, because I weaseled out of it. But we became friends. I did take him to that Cardinals game. We became, we didn't see each other a lot, but we would text and we would call. And the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which would be now 4 years ago this Thanksgiving, I get a message on Messenger from his mother, and it says, Mark, are you the Mark on the radio? This is Chris's mom, Chris Smith's mom. He was shot in the head. And what happened was, he was out with a woman up in Farmersville. It was a first date situation. And she had a crazy stalker ex-boyfriend that shot her, assassinated her in the kitchen of his house. He was left for dead with his dog just bleeding out. They found him on Thanksgiving morning. It's a crazy, crazy story. Then eventually the dude who did it, who's in prison, was convicted, tried to put a hit out for him and the detective that was working the case. I mean, the whole thing is nuts. So I want you to I'm going to send you some synopsis of that story, because I don't know if you're in the position to pitch stories like that. But again, it's gotten some national coverage. It's a fascinating case. And look, let's face it, Phil, we all love this true crime stuff, right? We eat it up. It's going to be a very popular segment you're going to do with Megan, and I can see why she's doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it twice a week. It's its own channel. It's its own show. It's separate and independent from her show, and we're looking forward to great things. And I'm sorry to hear about that with your friend, but that does make for obviously very interesting content.
But here's what's great about it. He was left for dead. The doctors didn't think he'd ever survive or that he would walk again. His recovery, that's a whole nother story. He's doing motivational speeches now. So he recovered from it. He still does not have complete mobility. He's still got a part of a bullet in his head. But, the story overall is really, really fascinating. And look, you can see this stuff playing out all the time on Netflix or Max or whatever streaming platform. I'm watching this yogurt shop murder thing on Netflix right now. I think it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix or Max, about these murders at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt in 1991. And that's fascinating. Have you checked that one out, Phil, at all?
No, I'm not. I'm about to check it out. I'm not familiar with it.
The reason that's interesting is not because of the crimes themselves, but it's because they go into a real deep dive, and I'm sure you have opinions of this, into a very deep dive and analysis of false confessions and how some of these guys really do get pigeonholed into a corner, and they say things that they just didn't do. And the psychology of it is fascinating.
Yes, I'm very familiar with the concept of false confessions, and another similar related concept is people will plead guilty to things they didn't do as well. And so that's very real stuff. And I've covered this in a previous podcast, but that's all very fascinating stuff.
Well, let's talk about something that's just tragic and gut-wrenching, and that's the shooting today in Minneapolis. I think it's miraculous that more people weren't killed. We're learning that here's another Looney Tunes very, very mentally ill and apparently a trans shooter in this case. What information have you gleaned here this afternoon? Anything new to talk about?
Well, it is it's awful, and I too, as horrible as it is to lose two children like this, the potential was there for it to be much worse. But the whole bigger thing to me is, I think in America we seem to have gotten sideways on something. I think parents, and I think there's some information coming out about the parents in this case who had assisted with and kind of maybe helped and lended a hand in terms of the whole transitioning thing. Parents who choose, I think, to ignore what is a real mental health issue with their children, they ignore that mental health reality, and they seek to affirm the delusions of their children rather than to treat the mental health problems. I think that is a big piece of this that has to be addressed. We've got to go back the other way. Maybe the pendulum is swinging, but I saw someone in the Justice Department today refer to this as, radical biological a movement, right? And it was Harmeet Dillon posted that on Twitter. And I think that we have to realize that it's mental illness. We've got to treat it as mental illness and stop pretending that it's something else. And because we have the mixture of, this hormones, sex hormones given to the opposite gender, a mixture with the psychotropic drugs and the medications. It's just a cocktail of stuff that we're putting in mentally troubled young people, and it's, I think, causing them to just turn into violent monsters.
I said it before, and some of this was so apparent in Jamie Reed when she came out here in St. Louis as a whistleblower. By the way, someone who was married to a trans person, a lesbian married to a trans person who's now detransitioning. When she came out talking about Washington University and Children's Hospital here, which was really ground zero for some of this to take off. And she said specifically one of the things that she was angry about and disappointed in with her colleagues in the medical profession is that they were automatically going to hormones and so-called gender-affirming care and completely ignoring the dramatic and deep mental health issues that were clearly apparent in many of these kids.
And we can't ignore the culpability at a broader level of hospitals, big pharma, because what they do is they get these people hooked on drugs, essentially, or dependent, reliant on drugs, and life, medical treatments for their entire life. They're never going to be able to stop going to the doctor and having future surgeries and taking medications and all sorts of things. And they do this for profit. And so it's all a radical ideology that's fed by a profit motive. It's sick, it's disgusting, and we've got to start recognizing it for what it is.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation up there, and I guess we're going to know a little bit more because there's a manifesto. Have you looked at, I listened to, most of it is just images of weapons and cartridges and bullets and just really, really creepy stuff from this shooter.
Yeah, it's bad stuff. It's almost makes you think of someone who's maybe possessed by a demon, and I guess in a certain sense, you could say that's applicable here.
Well, I think if you read the manifesto, the person basically admits it, that they're wrapped up in something like that. Phil, always great to have you on. I'm so glad you're involved with Megan's podcast. Is that already kicking off, or is it something that's just starting?
Yeah, we're in week 4, and you can go to
great.
MK True Crime anywhere under that handle, MK True Crime on social media, mktruecrime.com, and you'll hear all the episodes. I'm recording my 4th or 5th episode tomorrow.
Awesome. Great contribution to this show always. I'm sure you're going to be great on that. Thank you, Phil Holloway.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, take care.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We had a stall reported eastbound 6440 on the ramp to northbound 270, but it looks like it's off on the shoulder. Accident reported southbound 141 past Page. Watch for that one in the left lane. Most of the volume, we've got heavy traffic eastbound 70 headed for Hanley. That's where the right lane is down for road work. Westbound, just a little slow, Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through the 70 split. Now, southbound 170 is still slowing at 6440, which has some volume eastbound toward Big Bend, but most of it is westbound, and even that's just moderate. It starts near Kings Highway out past McCausland. Still a slow go on the Illinois side, eastbound 64 between 157 and 159 due to road work. This report brought to you by The Diamond Shop. The Diamond Shop, making St. Louis sparkle for over 100 years. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
I don't know if I can make your floor sparkle. That's the best segue that I have coming out of Sue there. But I do want to talk about Michael's Flooring Outlet and some great stuff that they can do for you. They just have such a passion and level of expertise. And I don't mean to be mean to big box store employees. I go to big box stores, but I certainly would not walk in and trust a big decision like a change in flooring in a bedroom, in a living room, in a basement to someone who might be a part-time employee. Mike Reynolds has been in this industry pretty much his entire life. And that's another one of those things there. My computers keep doing things here, Sue, that they're not supposed to.
I saw it. I heard
that
it.
was not Mark error. Mark
Okay.
actually did the right thing. And for some reason, that thing clicked into the Scott Jennings promo. Back to Michael's and what they can do for you. If you're looking for flooring, whether it's silky soft, very, very high technology flooring from Mohawk, which has stain resistance. And really, I say this all the time, the technology in flooring, whether it's hard flooring or soft flooring, has come a long way, just like in anything else. And Mike Reynolds, who started this business when he was 26 years old, has seen that happen. He's got employees that have been with him for decades, and they can guide you into the right products for your lifestyle, for your situation, and for your budget as well. IGotFloor.com is the website. They have 3 great locations open every day of the week except for Sunday in Darden Prairie, Old Town St. Peters, and in West County on Olive.
Mark Cox here. Join us live Thursday, September 11th at Chicken Ellie's in Eureka as we support Focus Marines Foundation. They're helping post 9/11 veterans transition to civilian life. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com. That's Viking.com. Viking.com.
Fast-paced, fact-based, and never boring. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
I don't move around too much during the 3 hours of the show. I sit here at the console, the board,
yes.
Because I'm the only one on the station that runs my own board because I'm a control freak, right?
Yeah, but it's good.
Yeah, but now that listener has sent the blankets, I sit here with, and Sue's so cute today. She's wrapped up in her pink blanket. I mean, you have it
cold.
You have it wrapped around your shoulders because it's 66 degrees in here, because I bought a thermometer and we have it in here all the time, and we can see exactly what the temperature is. So I just had to get up to shout something to Ethan, and I have my blanket on, and then I was having difficulty with the cable from my headphones twisting around my beautiful blue blanket.
It'll happen.
But I got through it, right? I did get through it. All right, I have a couple things here for audio cut of the day, so let's get started here.
Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
Before we get to the terrible thing that happened in Minnesota, let's talk about this guy who is a Florida sheriff. There's something about these sheriffs in Florida. They're badasses, let me tell you that. And Grady Judd is one of them. And there was an illegal immigrant who was arrested in Lakeland, Florida yesterday morning after attacking an ICE agent. And there was a fight that ensued. It lasted, I guess, about 5 minutes. The dude ran off. He was later arrested and taken to jail. But here's the Florida Sheriff Grady Judd.
Let me introduce you to Dennis Miranda. Do you notice that he's standing there smiling along with our deputies? He's committed a battery on a federal agent. That is a third-degree felony, except he's illegal, which makes it a second-degree felony. I bet we've wiped the smile off of his face.
Yeah, and he didn't stop there.
Well, I don't think he believes that he's really going to be deported. You see, when he came across the border in 2021 at Chula Vista, Border Patrol caught him. But they did catch and release because that's what the Biden era did. And then in 2024, Galveston Police Department arrested him for DUI and let him go again. Now, Galveston more than likely notified ICE, but at the time it was once again catch and release. Then he failed to show up, and Galveston issued a warrant for his arrest. However, it was a local warrant. Once he got outside of the state, he's safe. So what does he do? He comes to Florida. So they've already touched him 2 times with the system, and the system failed to get him out of this country.
So I thought about something today. Remember when I came back here from my leave of absence and I told you how I was pulled over and that there was a warrant that was attached to my license plate? It ended up being a warrant for a failure to pay a ticket for simply not providing insurance. My wife had an incident in Warren County, and there was a ticket for not providing insurance. And apparently there was a court date that was set, and she didn't show up. So I get pulled over because it was me. I wasn't hauled off into cuffs, but the cop was very honest with me. He said, look, if your wife's pulled over for a different reason, or if she's in this car, she's going to be, hauled in. Now we've corrected that situation, but think about that just in connection with all these migrants that can do whatever they want. They get arrested and then they get released. It's utterly ridiculous. Sadly, today we had another shooting at a school, this time at a Catholic school in Minneapolis. Here's the police chief down there talking about the basics of what happened in this case.
Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible.
So 2 people were killed. Of the 17 injured, 14 were children ranging in age from 6 to 15. There were 3 parishioners that were in their 80s that are also in the hospital, but everyone's expected to survive, which is good. This is a person that was known at first for 17 years of his life as Robert Westman, had a change that his mother approved a few years ago, going to Robin Westman, has left a long video that was posted this morning and also a manifesto. And then this just really stood out just because this kid is the same age as my daughter. He's in 5th grade. He's 10 years old and had to witness this.
We just got into Mass. It was like 3 minutes after. It was very scary. It was like my friend got shot in the back. He's in the hospital right now. I think he's going to be okay. And then my friend Victor, he was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him. I'm just like confused kind of because I never thought it would happen, and it just happened.
I mean, good for him to have the ability to even put words together like that. He sounded very mature for his age, but just devastating. We will have more coverage of this, obviously, heading into the evening with Fox News, and more tomorrow. We're back at 3 tomorrow afternoon. Sue, have a great night.
You too.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Thinning out nicely on the roads, at least on westbound 40. Little moderate volume, Hampton out through McCausland, and eastbound is slow, Lindbergh through Big Bend, in case you're headed to the game tonight. Westbound 70 looks fine out of downtown. It's just a little slow out at Highway A, but I mean, eastbound 70 is still lined up, headed for Hanley. That's where we've got the right lane down for some road work. Looking good on the bridges downtown, eastbound 64 on the Illinois side. Some moderate volume headed for 159. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
The Martins came over, we were having spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty. So we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said. Call Jerry Kelly, man, JerryKelly.com.